SGS is the world's leading company for testing, inspection and certification. We assess raw materials, products and processes throughout the world. We stand for neutrality and independence. The core of our work is ensuring our customers' long-term success. To do this, we continuously improve our services, modernize our technologies and build on innovations. We change business processes and make them simpler, faster and more efficient. We reduce your risks and improve your productivity and the quality of your products. Our aim is to provide services to you as our customer to ensure that you reap the long-term benefits on all the markets you operate in and to distinguish you from the competition. With a presence in every region around the globe, our worldwide network of offices and laboratories allows us to deliver unequaled service to our clients wherever they're based throughout the global supply chain. Consumers and legislators expect more than ever before that food should have the highest levels of safety and quality, and they expect this to be monitored conscientiously. This is what we do. No matter whether it's vegetable or animal products, semi-finished or ready-for-sale food, SGS supports companies in the entire food industry with a wide range of services. All types of analysis, microbiology, chemistry and hygiene, training and technical support, certification and inspection are just some of the things we offer. With our help, you protect your company, your products and your brands. Our laboratories are strategically located throughout the globe, near to where our customers are. With over 100 dedicated food facilities, SGS is able to provide an unparalleled range of routine and specialist tests on food, feedstuffs and packaging. SGS continues to invest in developing world-class testing capabilities in major food-producing and consuming countries. Our network of laboratories and capabilities are structured to optimize cross-lab synergies, to create specialized competence centers, to share best practices, and to develop new testing methods for client and network benefit. SGS tests food product safety, quality and performance against various health, safety and regulatory standards. Your contacts in the different locations organize optimum processing of your samples for you, worldwide in case of special requirements. All samples received in our laboratories are identified and then analyzed and assessed as quickly as possible. Each phase of the sample's journey through our laboratory is documented conscientiously. The status of the sample processing and the results of the measurements based on accredited procedures can be seen at all times, and this provides the basis for the next steps to be taken. All data, conclusions and recommendations are independently reviewed, ensuring you, our customers, receive the detailed reports only after plausibility checks have been carried out in the laboratory and in our customer service department. SGS combines its expert knowledge of food production and processing with the worldwide acknowledged competence of our laboratories as analytics service providers. In our accredited laboratories, we offer you a complete service, from microbiological testing and determination of nutritional value and ingredients, to allergens, colorants, and a wide range of contaminants. In microbiology, the safety of the food we investigate has top priority. We investigate the samples for microbial load, pathogens, microorganisms and toxins according to nationally and internationally recognized and specified methods. In our determination of nutritional value and ingredients, we use traditional food analysis methods as well as the latest instrument technologies. Key figures, quality levels and possible adulteration are determined and proved accurately. Heavy metals, mycotoxins, pesticides and dioxins. For consumers, a very important quality aspect is that the limit value for these contaminants is never exceeded. As accompanying tests, we investigate the packaging materials to make sure that no undesired substances can be transferred from them to your food. In our examination of the labeling, our experts consider every specification of the countries in which the product will be sold and advise you on both national and international levels. We offer you a complete assessment of your products based on food laws. With our support, you can guarantee that your products fulfill all legal regulations and limit values and that you put only perfect food into circulation. outstanding quality at first glance. Quality seals and product certification from SGS has stood for the special quality properties of food and beverages for 35 years. Consumer protection as it should be, guaranteed independent and neutral. We adapt all of the services in our SGS Food Services unit to your needs and requirements. We help you reduce your business risks by offering you more security. Especially with food, you need a partner that offers you just that bit more. More security, more quality, and more efficiency. We can help you throughout the entire supply chain, from raw material to end product, from farm to fork. You can always rely on us and on our competence as the world's leading independent company for testing, inspection, and certification.
Thanks, everyone. I am Nikki Prado, the event manager of the Qatar Food Safety Conference 2021. On behalf of Nextfairs, it is our great pleasure to welcome all our distinguished speakers, guests, and participants to today's conference. Thank you for joining us and for committing to exchange your views and knowledge with everyone. After the success of our first DigiCon series, the Qatar HR Conference, we continue to work diligently to deliver a remarkable experience to our clients, stakeholders, and partners by launching the Qatar Food Safety Conference, which we believe is one of the most vital topics in the world today. We are certain that this has been a perfect platform for global networking, and it has brought and continues to bring together renowned industry experts and speakers across the globe. Under the theme Together Transforming the Future of Food Safety and Quality, this conference intends to serve as an important platform for key regulators, food industry leaders, food safety professionals, the academe, and consumers to discuss and deliberate groundbreaking issues and concerns over food safety and quality. Today's sessions will be dedicated to cover a wide spectrum of topics on food safety challenges and the latest issues facing the food industry. With a total of 15 topics to be led by expert thought leaders and practitioners, these will all be related to local, regional, and international regulations and global standards which aim to strengthen food safety standard implementation in the country. We are certain that each one of you will benefit and take away key learnings from many fruitful and enriching discussions. We hope that this conference will also enable you to meet and discuss with all the industry professionals, and we look forward to a full day filled with enlightening interactive sessions. Again, a very warm welcome to each and every one of you. Please allow me to thank our sponsors for their continuous support. This conference would not be possible if not with them. Rakam, our regulatory consultant sponsor, SGS Qatar, our gold sponsor, Boyker and Compass Qatar as our silver sponsors. And to our media partners, Marhaba, Qatar Living, and I Love Qatar, thank you very much for your constant support. not only for these virtual conferences, but as our consistent patron as an organization. I am sure everyone is logged into our virtual event platform, so should you have any questions, suggestions, and clarifications, you can visit our virtual help desk. And we also encourage everyone to visit our exhibition hall and networking lounge using the same. Thank you once again, and let me introduce you to our conference chairperson, the CEO of Pillsbury Consultants, Mr. Abdul Rashid. The virtual floor is yours, sir. Have a wonderful and fruitful day, everyone.
Good morning, everybody. Nice to be with you today, and welcome to the Qatar Food Safety Conference 2021. Food safety is an important topic around the world. We have lots of focus on tourism and travel and business around the world, which is very, very key to ensuring that food safety is a platform that we have to engage the different stakeholders. And today we're going to be discussing a variety of topics, and the key theme is the focus of using technology on food safety and how food safety can be enhanced by using technology. One of the learnings that we have from the pandemic is the virtual conference platforms can be used to communicate around the world globally. And this is an opportunity for us to share information with key speakers around the world who are able to provide information about food safety and how technology can be used to enhance food safety. Without any further ado, first of all, I'd like to introduce our first speaker. That's Dr. Masoud Al-Mari. He's currently the Executive Secretary of the Food Security Committee and the Director of the Food Security Department at the Ministry of Municipalities and Environment in Qatar. Dr. Masoud was having an academic background with a BSc in chemistry from Qatar University, then moving on to an MSc in environmental engineering sciences from the University of Florida in the US. He also has worked for the Supreme Council on Natural Reserves in Qatar from 2000 to 2005, also in the Central Environmental Laboratory in Qatar in 2007-2009. He became the General Manager of the National Environmental Services Technologies in Qatar. So he has a very strong academic background and also working with government entities in regards to the focus of food safety and the environment in Qatar. Dr. Masoud will prepare his presentation, and after that we will have a discussion during the panel session if you have any questions to ask Dr. Masoud. Dr. Masoud, can I ask you to take the presentation, please? Thank you.
Thank you. In the beginning, I'd like to thank you for giving me this opportunity really to participate in this conference. I'd like to share the presentation. Is it can be shown?
Yes, we can see the presentation, yes.
Good morning, everybody. I'm going to talk about the food safety and quality. As the definition of the food safety based on FAO is all the necessary condition and standard required during the production, manufacturing, storage, distribution, preparation, and eating of food necessary to ensure that food is safe and documented, which means that we know the source of that food, healthy and suitable for human consumption. And also, it's safe for consumption and not endanger the health of the consumer. And also, since it's necessary, you know, that subject, there is committees and organization globally has been established to control this issue and also to be, you know, taken all action globally to ensure the safety for the food, like the FAO and also Food and Drug Administration. And there is three most important components of good food, which should be free from biological and chemical and physical disease. And also it has enough quantity of the nutrients in the food. And also it should be not just as a food, should be also good and be nutritious for a human. Based on Food and Agriculture Organization, the definition of the food safety defines that the food hygiene as the requirement and precaution that should be provided to ensure food safety and suitability at all stages of the food chain. And also for the management of the food safety, there is some requirements should be achieved, like the hazardous analysis and the critical control points, and also the system to follow and do the traceability for the food from preparation until the end user. And also all of us know that the condition of the ISO and the importance of ISO to control the quality of all the products. And one of that products is for sure is the food, how it's important to have a system to do the quality and to check the quality of the food. And we can find, there is different standard and specification, like British standard, Indian standard, ISO and European specification, US specification, and also for the Arab country, they have their standard. And it's the requirement and characteristic and types of the specific products or method issued from approved bodies that can give the assurance of the quality of the products. And also for each country, they can have their own specification or standard based on their conditions. And basically, every country has their own condition and environment, and so they can also have the international standard as a guidelines, and they can develop their own standards. And we can see the quality marks or brand like UCAS, so other brands that will known internationally, like what we can see. Also, the food quality is very important. It's not just the food is safe, also the quality of food that can give the enough nutrition and also give all the necessary elements to the consumer is also important. It's not just the safety and the quality. We can see it. It's the two very important elements for the food. In Qatar, we have our strategy, which is the food security strategy. And it's one of the main objectives of Qatar vision. And on that strategy, we have 4 pillars. One of the pillars is the local market. And under the local market, we are really taking care of the food quality and food safety. There is a lot of initiatives under that pillar, which is, we are taking plan and action in order to secure the quality and the safety. It's one of the pillars. We have a pillar for local production, how to produce food locally with taking care of the quality and safety, and also for the strategic reserve for the food, and also how we taking all the precaution to store that food in a good condition. Also, international trade, how we ensure that the source of the food is from the well-known source that taking care of the safety and the quality. At the same time, we have a local market as the fourth pillar, where we really taking care also of all the inspection from production, handling, and storage, and also taking all measures to ensure the safety. And our strategic, our national food security strategy for Qatar, we developed our strategy based on the international definition for the food security. The food security was known as having the availability of the food and the affordability and the quality and safety. This is the three elements of the food security. So that we can see that the safety is one of the elements for the food security. Based on that, our strategy, as I said, was developed in this regard to ensure the availability of food and with the affordability and also quality and safety. And we can see, as what I said before, in order to achieve our strategy goals, we have 4 pillars plus R&D, which is the local self-sufficiency, strategic reserve, and also international trade and logistics, and local market and supply chain, plus what I said, research and development. In regard to the 4th pillar, which is related to food, local market, where the food safety and the quality initiatives come under that pillar. We actually have target in that pillar, which is achieving the transparency and efficiency in the food supply chain to ensure that all parties follow a fair business practice. Business practice, we mean how they are producing, handling, storing the food. And this is very important to achieve the food quality and safety. At the same time, we are working on improving the food quality. Also reducing the food waste and also waste in the supply chain. We are working also on food quality. We are trying to develop our standard for the vegetable and fruit through controlling the quality from the seeds until the consumer, how to improve the food supply chain in order to maintain the requirement for quality and safety. We have KPIs in our strategy. We need to reduce the food waste by 2023 by 7 to be 7%. Now we are about 14%, so we need to reduce it by half. And also reducing the processed food waste by to be 20%. As we know, in our region, the practice really is lead to a lot of waste as food waste. So we need to improve the practice and behavior of the people from, through the education, through, sharing all important guidelines to reduce the waste. Also to enhance our standard and also to reduce the incident the food safety incident per capita per year to be the zero. We don't want to have any incident related to food safety. We have, the governance of the food standard here in Qatar, and we have a work plan for that. We need to have, integrating and accelerating the food quality inspection process in the custom. That need really, to review all the procedure there and try to minimize that, inspection process without affecting, controlling the quality and the safety of food in the custom. And also to reviewing our safety legislation and to improve it based on the international best practice. And also establish a clear food certification process. And this is also important for the supplier and also for the consumer. And also we are going to have, some initiatives to change the behavior, so that behavior related to the service provider or to the consumer in order to reduce, the waste related to the food that happen from improper practice from providers or from the consumers. Also, we need to enhance our, clearing transaction by reducing the time, because if we are dealing with food, we should be more professional to handle that food with the short time, because the quality and the safety is affected or are affected by the long time of clearing transaction of the food, and also to enhance the quality monitoring system, also for the environment of handling the food in our central market. And we would like to thank you for your listening, and we are ready for any question, clarification about food safety and food quality procedure here in Qatar or policy. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Masood Al-Mari. We appreciate your time, and it provided a very good overview of the vision of Qatar and the ministry that you work. Shows very good leadership and understanding of the concept of food safety and how food safety is key as part of the development of not only of countries around the world. And of course, you have the next World Cup coming up in 2022. And as part of that, there's a strategy, I'm sure, in place to handle the food safety standards during this global event, which is Qatar is hosting next year. We will have some questions and answers during the panel discussion. And I'd like Dr. Masood to request him to remain online so we can have the panel discussion with him as one of the panel members. Thank you so much, Dr. Masood, and appreciate your time afforded to us at the conference, and appreciate your efforts, continued efforts to and ensure food safety and quality at the same time. Thank you so much for the presentation.
Thank you so much.
Moving on to the next presenter, I'd like to introduce Mr. Omar Hisham. Omar Hisham is the Business Development Manager with RAQAM. He has more than 12 years of marketing business development experience, and as a key differentiator for operational achievements and strategic leadership. Empowers RAQM's portfolio with access to communication at all levels. So, Mr. Omar, I'd like you to take you on for the presentation and to enlighten us on the strategy of RAQM and your program with regards to food safety standards in Qatar.
Thank you very much, Abdul Rashid, and thank you, Dr. Masood, for a wholesome presentation. I would like to also extend my thanks to the organizing team, to the government officials who allowed this to happen, and to all the delegates who are interested to understand more about food safety and food quality. Of course, many thanks also to the educators and speakers with us today. Thank you all for being here. RAQAM is Regulatory Affairs and Quality Assurance Management. We are here to consult and provide information and advice regarding food safety, consumer health, helping both authorities and FMCG companies excel in targeted markets, especially in the MENA, including GCC, Levant, and North Africa. Today, I come to you to speak a little bit about the regulatory atmosphere in the GCC in general, and with a specific overview in Qatar recent food regulations updates to understand how we can together be more compliant and ensure safety and consumer health. First of all, we need to understand a little bit about the authorities that are in the region over here. In the GCC, we have individual authorities for each country for standards and regulations. In UAE, we have ESMA, who turned into MOYAT. In Qatar, the Qatar General Organization Standardization. In Bahrain, we have the Director General for Specifications and Measurements. In Kuwait, Standards in Industrial Service Affairs. Apologies, that was in Nauman for the DGSM. And in Bahrain, we have the Bahrain Standards and Metrology Directorate. In Saudi, we have SFDA. All together are individual authorities per country, also interconnected with an authority that oversees, not really an authority, but more of a committee that oversees all the GCC regulations and standards, which is the GSO, the GCC Standardization Organization. A little bit about the GSO to understand what how they operate. A GSO draft is usually provided by the GCC member. They issue the technical draft, regulation or standard under the supervision of the GSO committee. Then the draft passes through two stages, a first and the final draft. And then the manufacturers can provide their comments on drafts. And this is very important not to miss. A lot of manufacturers do not know about new drafts that are coming out, and then they miss the chance of commenting. because after that, only the draft becomes finalized and then gets sent to WTO, where it is again open for international comments for 60 days. After these 60 days, WTO approves the regulations, and then these regulations go into effect in a 6-month grace period time, usually, and depends on each country. But these are the GSO that can affect all the GCC countries, including Qatar. Recently, we had a big surge of regulations and standards that came into place and already approved by WTO. I think it was exactly in July. And these over 200 new regulations, they're around over 300 as well. They may affect companies' products, shipping, warehouses, factories, and at the same time, the business itself, the continuity and the sustainability of the business. We're not going to talk about all of them, but we're just going to go a little bit into the horizontal regulations. Vertical regulations are usually related to a certain category, like dairy, cheese, or infant formulas, or different types of categories. But when it comes to horizontal regulations, these are usually regulations that affect all types of products or different categories of products. That's why they are called horizontal. The new horizontal GSO regulations that came out in July, the first one is about the general requirements of the food packaging, packages, GSO 839. Also GSO 1863 about the plastic package general requirements. These regulations usually discuss specifics, limitations, and then more indications about what companies need to follow in order to be compliant with the region here. GSO 2545, recycled plastic materials and articles intended to come into contact with food. GSO 2567, maximum limits of pesticide residues in agricultural and food products. This is a very important one when it comes to farms, agricultural farm, and residues in general in the food products. GSO 707, flavoring permitted for use in foodstuffs. This is also very important in relation to what kind of additives and flavoring that we use in the foodstuff or in the food products that we would like to sell in the GCC region. Apologies. Today, we're going to focus a little bit into GSO 2233, which is the requirements of nutritional labeling, because it has a major effect on our industry. But also other horizontal GSO regulations include GSO 2481, maximum residue limit of veterinary drugs in food, and GSO 2483, partially hydrogenated oils and fats. Actually, it is not allowed anymore. I think this regulation discusses which products are not allowed to use partially hydrogenated oils and fats. GSO 2500 is a very important update to the 2019 one, additives permitted for use in foodstuff. That's in general, not only the flavorings, but in general, all types of additives. And GSO 193, contaminants and toxins in food and feed. There's a couple more as well. The GSO 995, sweeteners permitted in food. These are all the replacements of sugars that are allowed. GSO 2576 is the requirements for use of terms such as fresh, natural, pure, and etc. And it discusses what type of terms can be applied. It discusses, I think there's also another horizontal regulation that discusses claims on the labels of products. GSO 1069, general principles for the addition of essential nutrients to food, like reinforcements of food items, depending on the requirement of the region here. My apologies. GSO 2600, general requirements for places of packaging and repackaging of food. Okay, I'll mute a second. Okay, GSO 2604, putting calories on food establishment menus, selling away from home foods, and GSO 2605, declaration of food allergens in food establishment menus. Okay, my voice is about to be gone, but I'm trying my best to continue. As I mentioned earlier, we are trying to discuss the GSO 2233 regarding the nutritional labeling. This is very important because before, in our GCC countries, we used to follow more of an EU-based or similar to an EU nutrition facts on the labels, while right now, as per the 2021 edition, the requirements became more like the US nutritional facts, and it allows us the opportunity to provide labeling or nutritional information based on the serving size, not only per 100 gram or 100 milliliter, but we also need to declare more information related to calories. And here is specifically calories, not only energy in or kilojoules or kilocalories. It's only in calories over here. And also when it comes to fat, not only the saturated, but also the trans fats need to be declared. Cholesterol, sodium, and we don't have to mention salt. It is basically calculated from sodium, but here we have to mention the sodium level. And when it comes to the carbohydrates, also we need to mention the fiber and the added sugar. Basically, the new nutrition facts, as you can see, it is really similar to the USA nutrition facts label. So the GCC kind of shifted now from an EU relevant type of nutrition facts on the labeling, information on the labeling, into a US based with a lot of similarity to the type of labeling required. To dig a little bit deeper into Qatar, we bring to you some of the latest updates that has happened and launched by the Qatari authorities. Based on the organization Gazette, we have a new standard, the Qatar decision of the Minister of Trade and Industry number 2 to adopt international standards as national Qatari standards. These international standards include QS-CAC 99 2022, canned tropical fruit salad, the CAC 246, rambutan CXS, and CAC 322R for the non-fermented soybean products, the CAC 237, a revision about the discussion of general requirement on the utilization of vegetable protein products in foods. So multiple international standards implemented in the Qatar authorities. Also launched by Hukumi, a guideline for importing halal food and Islamic bodies, authorized and permitted to issue halal and halal slaughtering certificate. The guide sets forth the general definitions and requirements for halal food, animal slaughter requirements, halal food and halal slaughter certification forms approved in Qatar, a list of prohibited foods according to Sharia law, and a list of technical regulations and halal-related standards. It also contains application forms for authorizing, permitting Islamic bodies to issue halal food and halal slaughtering certifications for exporting food to Qatar. Also, another guideline by Hukumi, the Ministry of Public Health, issued food safety practices guide for food services pursuant to the international best practices in the field of food safety and in line with the requirements of the relevant Gulf standards. The guide provides detailed instructions on meeting mandatory legislative requirements, food hygiene, and safety measures based on the HACCP approach, which will be reviewed and evaluated by the Department of Food Safety and Environmental Health inspectors during their official inspection activities. The guide also contains proposed control measures for food service establishments to ensure their compliance. Moving on to more updates in Qatar. The Ministry of Health have announced the pilot launch of electronic food safety system. We believe this is a great move towards an electronic and more controlled and better monitored system. So alongside the Ministry of Health, we really urge people to use this electronic system to register all their existing or upcoming products to make sure that there are no risks happening once it's officially operational, which is expected to be soon, hopefully before the beginning of 2022. Also from the Ministry of Health, we have a new circular about the dairy products requirements. This circular was published by the MOPH in Qatar, and it urges manufacturers of the following products have to meet the requirements regarding each of them mentioned in this circular. So we're talking about all types of dairy products. This circular supersedes all previous dairy circulars and regulations that contradicts it. So it is very important if, as a manufacturer, you are following a regulation related to dairy product, this new circular supersedes it, and we need to follow this one instead now. In Hukumi also, a news that came in recently, MOCI, virtual selling platforms and home businesses are obliged to obtain licenses and display prices in Arabic. So we're talking about virtual selling platforms, whether Amazon or any types of virtual selling, e-commerce platforms, and also home businesses. They need to declare prices in Arabic, and most importantly, they need to obtain the required licenses and the registrations to ensure sustainability of selling in the market and the sustainability of the business itself. As a consultancy, we would like to provide some recommendations. The first, the specific finding that we found, based on the new 200 regulations for FMCG products, there may be risks impact on a lot of existing and upcoming products in Qatar. And we would like to recommend conducting label validations for the products that are being sold in the GCC, not only in Qatar, with the new regulations, along with a reassessment and re-registering of the products where applicable, depending on the requirements of the country. Another general requirement, for many reasons, we've seen communication barriers between brand and authorities, which can create an opportunity for risks and a misunderstanding and can eventually create a crisis. The solution here is to always consider working with local scientific partners knowledgeable of the regulatory atmosphere in Qatar and can ease the communication between existing and prospecting brands with the Qatari authorities. It is very important that the scientific base here the scientific knowledge is the base of what we're talking about, because again, this is a very important issue. We're talking about consumer health and food safety. The scientific knowledge helps both entities or both the authorities and the manufacturers combine their knowledge better and then combine their efforts towards one goal. Thank you very much for your time. We did not have a lot of time to discuss many more and to dig deeper into the regulations that has came in recently. We understand that there's a lot. I mean, plus 200 or even plus 300 regulations are a lot of them, but we're always here to help. I'm sure that also a lot of regulatory and quality experts are available in different GCC markets in Qatar or outside it, and they are willing to help. Please reach out to your consultant, reach out to your partners, bring in all the information about the regulations, the circulars, the standards that are coming out. We urge you to make sure that you are compliant before you enter a market. And when you enter a market, make sure that you are consistently compliant to make sure that at the end of the day, your consumer is happy with your product, always see it on the shelf, and then happy with the results after having it when their health is affected in the right way as per their expectations. And also for the authorities, we really appreciate all the support that they have been putting into developing and approving new regulations, making a responsible environment for us consumers and for everyone in the industry. Thank you all for your time. We appreciate it, and we look forward to seeing you in future events. If you have any questions, don't forget to mark them, and then we'll answer them in the Q&A session. Thank you all. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much, Omar. That's a very good overview of the hard work that you're doing in regards to regulatory requirements and ensuring that we have a seamless understanding of regulatory requirements, which is key. The last thing that businesses want to have is a lack of understanding to ensure that they're able to trade across the GCC countries. They are having familiarity with the regulatory requirements in each of the GCC member countries, and that will ensure that we have a seamless transmission of business between countries. And as you mentioned, it is important for entities and government authorities to work closely with all key stakeholders to ensure that people are familiar with the regulatory requirements, particularly with any updates. And as you mentioned, nutrition is an area which is now increasingly, this is an area that we have to focus on to ensure that business clearly understand what are the regulatory requirements in each of the GCC countries, to ensure that we have a proper understanding of regulatory requirements to prevent any barriers of trade and that affect the business and the economy of countries that we are talking about. Thank you so much. We'll have you as a member of the panel discussion. So I'm sure there'll be questions people want to ask and clarify information that you provided. So if you can please stay around online, and we can have a discussion and a member of the panel as part of the team later on. Fine. Thank you so much, Omar.
Thank you. Looking forward to it.
Our next scheduled speaker is Ms. Zoe Harris, according to the schedule that I have, but I've also got Mr. Feroz online. Is that right, Dr. Feroz?
Yes. Do you have my presentation, sir?
Zahir will be able to help you with that and put on the presentation on the screen. In the meantime, what I will do, I'll just introduce you.
But do you have my presentation?
Mr. Zahir will be able to help you with that presentation. I'm sure they will have a presentation with this, and they'll be able to put that on the screen. They're going to share a presentation with on the screen in a few minutes.
Yes, please.
While I introduce yourself, they'll be putting the presentation on the screen.
Can I ask? Oh yeah, I have it.
You got it there? Okay, great. So just a quick introduction of Dr. Feroz. Dr. Feroz Darodi worked as a lecturer, a professor at the University of Leiden University Medical Center. This is and also as a director of Global Harmonization Initiative Platform on Genetic Toxicology and Genomics at in Holland. Dr. Darodi received his PhD from Leiden University in 1989 and worked across the field of genetic and chemical mutagenesis. He has a research career focusing on variety of different aspects of human health, including cancer research, cellular biology, DNA repair, toxicology, and also, of course, food safety. He has contributed to a lot of development and validation of alternative testings, systems, including in vitro alternatives using animals, etc. And so he has a lot of academic knowledge and experience with regards to genetic toxicology and genomics. And Dr. Feroz will be presenting this to the panel and the participants today for the presentation.
Do you have my voice?
I can hear you, yes.
Okay. Many thanks, Mr. Chairman, for your kind introduction. And also, I look forward to say hello to you all, for the chairman, for the respected Dr. Almari, and all the colleagues. Really, it's a great privilege to be have the opportunity to be in this symposium, because in my judgment, food safety is one of the most important issues to be considered with regard to human health. And also, I'm happy that my prior speaker, Mr. Omar, talked about all the interesting guidelines that so far has been established. And this is an issue that I would like to address upon. So what I will talk about is the next generation genetic testing platform to improve food safety standards and the state of art. And as you already mentioned, that my work, primarily all the work has been done at my department, radiation genetic and chemical mutagenesis, as well as toxicogenomics at Leiden University Medical Center, that I had the privilege to work for 36 years. So very briefly, I just show you our university and the hospital very quickly to pass through, because it's very interesting. You should get to know it. Unfortunately, I cannot change the slide from my side. Okay, so this is our Leiden University Medical Center. Leiden University is the oldest university in Netherlands, and is established in 1575, so by now it's 446 years old. And the hospital that is linked is that this is one of the biggest hospital in Netherlands. It has about 1,100 bed capacity and 220,000 square meter. And very interesting is that this is a sort of triangle that we have the hospital. And would you, next slide, please? I cannot change it from my side. Would you? Yeah, so this is the educational part that we have with the pipe is linked to the hospital. And the next slides will show you my center, research center. This is the research scientific part, again, for the pipe link to the hospital. So it's a very nice combination, the clinical educational part and the research all linked together. And I work in the, led the group in the first floor and the fourth floor in this interesting building. So in the next slide, I will just talk about what are we facing for practically the genotoxicant that we are facing in the food, air, soil, and the water, and if we are being exposed to, may have the next one, please. And what we are being exposed to is the sort of the series of the physical and chemical agents, including the food. And how we are being exposed, it can be exposure through the natural way, occupational way, clinical way, and unfortunately also accidental way. And what it may happen, next slide, please. It will affect our cellular damage, and the cellular damage is going to be manifested through the DNA, protein, membrane, or cellular organization, and that may lead to cell death and that way, or the cancer in patients. And of course, when we are under identical conditions, some people, we see a difference between the different individuals, and this is a very important issue, and this difference, we can manifest it through the genetic analysis, and that make a good link between the exposure and the biological consequences. So in the next slide, what you see, very important aspect of the rate of mortality derived from the National Cancer Institute in America. And with all the interesting guidelines that had already been addressed, part of it, by my colleague, and also what we have in Europe and America, still you will see nutrition is #1 on causing the cancer. So one message coming from here is that practically maybe the guidelines needs to be revisited and revised. And this is what now I'm proposing. Practically all the studies has done so far in order to make it the guideline are based upon genetic toxicology that myself and my colleagues started more than 50 years ago. But now based on the information we have, is really sort of the idea and the proposal that we wish to change the guideline based on the technology that is more relevant to human. And this is what I would like to talk about today. Again, when you look at this list, you see the nutrition involved 10 to 70% of the cancer, and by far is the most important issue to consider for human health. And the next one is the smoking, but of course, the smoking is only limited to the lung cancer. Again, nutrition issues are quite important, relevant to human health that we have to address. And the next one, please. Next one. So what we can see, of course, the issue of the genetic toxicology has been addressed for many years, and there are some feedback, then not positive feedback, or even you may say negative feedback. Next one, please. And this is the traditional assessment, or on the next one, either based on the in vivo studies, means using the animal, or in vitro studies. In vivo studies lack the proper information because mainly the very high doses has been used, and then they have speculated to low doses, but it may not be necessary that make a direct link between the in vivo and human. From other hand, in vitro cell culture, again, got the setback because many chemicals, they need to get the activation system from the liver. And in vitro cell culture, they do not possess this one. Therefore, they use rat liver microsome plus the chemicals, and they test it in vitro. Again, this has a feedback, and it was found clearly that we got many false positive and false negative. And many of the existing guidelines still are based on this type of studies. Therefore, we try to pave the way toward new models in order to be able, first of all, to look at the relevant biological doses. Means we did not pump the cells with the extremely high doses at the doses that we are being used on a regularly, on a daily basis. From other hand, we try to have the system that we can look to the effect of the directly acting chemicals as well as indirectly acting chemicals. They need the liver microsome fraction. And the next one, please. And we use the human HepG2 cells. And some of the characteristics of this cell line, though this is the hepatoma cells, but based on the other observation, this is the data can be directly linked to the human because these are liver cells. And because the target for DNA damage as well as for activating cells are the same, this simplifies the test. As well, it allows to detect the mutagenic activity of the short-lived chemicals. As I told you already, one of the reasons that animals are being welcomed in genetic toxicology is that application of the liver microsome. And at least in Holland, per year, more than 200 million euro is being spent only in animal studies in order to isolate the microsome from the liver. And now what we develop is that we use a microsome from HepG2 cells. And you may realize that the cost that we have using these HepG2 cells is at least 10,000 less than the cost we have with animal studies. And the message is that consequently, this system, this model can be used not only in the developed countries, can also be established in third world countries, as I have done in many countries in Asia. And at the end, very important matter that the HepG2 cells, we find it possesses two sets of enzymes, phase 1 and phase 2, as normal human hepatocyte. And the interesting is that by culturing these cell lines, the activation of both enzymes still will remain, that it has been shown is not evidence for other in vitro cell types. Next one, please. So the first thing that we perform is that we make a comparative analysis because we are dealing with the hepatomas cells. We made a comparative analysis between human hepatomas cells, the dash bars, plus the human hepatocyte, normal human hepatocyte, the dash bars, and white bars reflecting the HepG2 from 3 different experiments. As you can see, the take-home message is that the level of the both phase 1 and phase 2 enzyme are similar between normal hepatocyte and HepG2. In other words, it could be the very good system to be used for hepatocyte. Why we cannot use hepatocyte directly? Because they are not growing in culture. And the next one, please. So this is the work plan that we have made. We look for the unknown as well as the known chemical with defined mutagenic potential, either alone or even in the mixture, because that's again very important issue to address that previous studies has not been done. And we use a battery of the systems as is illustrated here. Chromosomal aberration, I will little bit define this part, and DNA damage, gene mutation, determination, enzymatic property, detecting potential of genotoxic metabolites, gene expression profile, and a structure-activity relationship. As you can see, by doing all these points, at the end, we end up clearly that which element of which chemical cause genotoxic potential or anti-genotoxic potential. Next one, please. So this is just one of the examples. When you look to DNA damage induction, we can see the technique called COMET assay, and take a message from this particular studies is that we also automated, as you can see in the right part, and this means that we can test a large number of the chemicals, plus we can study large number of the cohort in case of exposure or in case we wish to do the proper testing. And the next one, please. And one of the points that we established in my group in Leiden is that we look for the DNA in the form of the effect that may manifest on the chromosome, and therefore any damages induced on the chromosome will be fed back to the DNA and may directly link to human health. And in order to assess this chromosomal alteration, we define different methods. Next one, please. So, in order to convince you that how important it is to do chromosomal analysis, this is the 3 set of experiments we did it, that this type of experiment can never be repeated. First of all, we study in 3 parts about 20,000 people, and the gap between the starting and the ending the experiment was 15 and 20 years. And this was we analyzed the people for the normal people, unexposed people, the frequency of the chromosomal alteration. And then after 15, 20 years, we went back to the same group and we made a link. We find a link. Those that initially they had higher incidence of chromosomal abnormality, it was higher frequency of the cancer observed. In other words, if we see in genotoxicology, if the assay is looking for chromosomal abnormality, if any induction in chromosomal abnormality, at the end, it may link to cancer. Next one, please. So, and according to the work that I have done in Leiden, International Atomic Agency and World Health Organization asked me to write a manual cytogenic assay for all these biological assays. Why? Because then either identical condition, we can do the work. And this is very interesting. And I have made it 2 manual or the guidelines book. The first one published in 2001, and the revised version we published in 2011. And these are available, and it can be given to my colleagues in Qatar as well. So next one, please. So now coming to the point, when we use HepG2 cells, we went to mainly, I will show you the summary of the work we have done for the type of the food that we are all using in the world on a daily basis. So this is now the data I would like to present. Next one, please. And this is a biological assay. This is just the terminology of micronucleus assay, either breaking the spindle, the right panel, and then or part of the chromosome is broken, and the right panel, this is, you see what we can observe under microscope. Next one, please. And all the biological assay in the A regarding the COMET assay, or the B chromosomal alteration, C reflects the macronuclei, or the E and the H reflect the spot counting, we have automated. Meaning that, again, as I mentioned already, we can study large number of the chemicals as well as large number of the cohorts. Next one, please. So we use the HepG2 to study the genotoxic potential of different classes of the human dietary component. Next one. And next one. So this is the food good mutagen. How we get this one? This is the food rich in protein, and I listed some of the chemicals there, and we call them heterocyclic aromatic amine. Next one, please. Next one. And this is how we get them. And this is a very common lifestyle or the diet that we have in the whole world, and primarily in the Middle East, and that by barbecuing or baking the protein-rich food, this will get it heterocyclic aromatic amine. And when I put the arrows, that indicates how extensive we barbecue, the amount of heterocyclic aromatic amine will be increased tremendously and according to the amount that we barbecue. Next one, please. And this is what we have done. We study and this is what I'm showing you in the earlier studies. None of them so far clearly define or implicate the genotoxic potential. And at the dose that we got double amount of the chromosomal abnormality, we made a comparative analysis between the heterocyclic aromatic amine, and we make a ranking order. And this is very interesting because now for the first time, once as long as they are negative, that many of them they have been so far in other studies, we could not extend anything, get any knowledge. But now that we have it positive, we can look which chemical is responsible, which enzyme are involved, and accordingly, we can adjust it as such to be able to lower the damage induced in human. And next one, please. And the other point is that the other chemical, mycotoxin, where mycotoxin can be found, next one, in the wheat, in barley, in oats, in maize, in peanut. Again, this is daily, we are all using and consuming this one. And the next one indicates how important it is to study the genotoxic potential of mycotoxin. Next slide, please. In all animal studies performed so far, exposure to mycotoxin cause cancer. In horse, in pig, in rat, in many of these old animals cause cancer. And interesting is that, and in a way, unfortunately for human, all mycotoxins are very stable during storage and milling process and difficult to destroy them at high temperature. So meaning that when they bake it or when they put it in a high temperature, still we may get this mycotoxin following eating the bread or other type of the diet. Next one, please. And many of them, they have shown negative data so far. Again, no other studies can be performed in order to explore further what's the reason. And in our studies, all of them we tested, they got positive data. And then interesting is that by far, the number one is aflatoxin B1, is the known carcinogen. In all studies, it came positive, and in our assay, is by far is number one. And by far what I'm talking about is the dose that enhance the frequency of the abnormality by double is 0.2 microgram per ml compared to other chemicals. This dose at least is by a factor of the 12 times, 100 times more compared to this one. And the other interesting message is that we look at the ochratoxin A, is a potent carcinogen. We change the methyl group, we find ochratoxin B. And then when we tested ochratoxin B, it was found to be non-carcinogen. Again, I'm pinpointing now we reached the stage that really by doing this type of the assay, we can even pinpoint which ion is responsible for genotoxic or non-genotoxic potential of a specific type of chemicals that we are consuming on a daily basis. And the next one, please. So we look to the assessment of anti-mutagenic potential human dietary component, because this is again what we are consuming as well. And we also look at the mode of action of the enzyme involved. Next one, please. In one of the studies we performed, we first of all taken the TRPP2. If you recall from the previous slide, it was number one in the ranking status, and we got the three beer extract. So when you look at the zero means that the effect of the beer extract alone and at zero dose. So means this is the control level for us. And when you look at the red bars indicates the effect of the TRPP2, you see comparing the control, the frequency is increasing, the frequency of damage increasing by dose. And when we have two of the green and the gray one is the lager beer or the Guinness beer, when we combine with TRPV2, the effect is diminished and reached to the control level for both doses. But this was not evident for the pink color that's regarding to the stout. So we went and searched what is the reason. Next one, please. First of all, we checked whether the effect, anti-genotoxic effect, might be due to the ethanol, but that's not the situation. We find ethanol itself is a genotoxicant, as you can see, clearly increase the frequency of the aberration. And next one, please. And in this situation, you see, just look at the red bars and the yellow in both events, and we see we isolated glycine betaine from those two beers, we find anti-genotoxic effect. And for the first time, we presented data that now we have the chemical, this chemical has anti-genotoxic potential. And the next one, please.
Dr. Feroz, just to advise, you have about 2 minutes left for the presentation, 2 minutes.
Yeah, and this is the other type of the genotoxic, anti-genotoxic potential we study for the sort of the traditional health or other type of the chemical. And this is listed here, and all they were shown to have to be anti-mutagen. But again, take home messages that when you look to vitamin C or vitamin A, you see both of them at higher doses they were genotoxic. So this is again another cautionary note we are putting forward in this type of research. And the last two slides, next one, please. And then we look for the genomic and proteomics and biomarker for cancer. Next one, please. We look at the microarray, and this you can see the induction of the specific type of gene like the telomerase protein. This could be involved in the risk for the prostate cancer. Next one, please. We develop a chromosome, the chromosome painting for the whole chromosome panel. And again, the translocation between chromosome 9 and 11, this could be the myeloid leukemia cancer. And next one, please. And we also find a marker, c-MYC marker for the colorectal cancer. Next one. So in conclusion, what we have done is that we develop a cell system that reflects activation and detoxification of carcinogen better than other indicator cells that are currently being used in vitro and therefore have an increased predictive value for identification of mutagenic and anti-mutagenic of human dietary component. And of course, this cell model has the potential to be considered as an alternative choice of animal in genotoxicology. And the last, I thank you for all attention, and also happy to inform you that I'm trying to find a way in order to establish this type of system in one of the research or educational center in Qatar. And though I'm not a good cook, but this is, I'm just proposing to you, this could be the nice scenario that you may find out. And the next one, just explain why is this nice picture. The last one, please. So the Red Sea is a salmon, and the rocks are potato, and the bread, and the trees are dill, and the last one, and the boat is a green pea pot. Thank you very much for your attention, and thanks, Chairman, for giving more time.
Thank you, Dr. Feroz. That's a very thorough presentation on human genetics and chromosome technology and how that can be linked to food safety, and particularly with regards to the toxins that you mentioned, reduction when we have toxin issues within the body. Thank you so much. We'll be having you on the panel later on for further discussions and questions. Thank you so much for that. And without any further delay, the next speaker is Jose Alex. He's been working with SGS as a manager for the last, since 2007, sorry. So it's almost 14 years. And he has worked with NGOs in Asia, Africa, and the Middle East. He has a bachelor's degree in science from Kerala Agricultural University in India. And he has vast experience and interest focused on executing and managing food safety and hygiene audit inspections, testings in the food service industry. And he has also presented in conferences in Qatar on food safety. And we'd like to take the opportunity to share his knowledge and experience. And of course, SGS is one of the key sponsors for this Qatar Food Safety Conference. So Alex, can you take us forward on your presentation, please?
Now, what is a customized single audit and what are its objectives? Basically, when you look into any industry, like whether it is a catering or it's a manufacturing or whether it is a trading, there are a lot of international standard requirements they have to meet, or there might be a lot of customer criteria they have to meet, or there might be a lot of regulatory requirements they have to comply. So in this complex nature of various standards to be met, a customized audit becomes one of the most important. It's in one way, it becomes complying to all these parallel requirements. And it will reduce the time of any operational disruption. Rather than having a n number of audits, you can just combine all these together as a single customized audit, because most of the requirements in all these standards will be the same. And in other words, it can deliver the management in terms of cost, in terms of time savings, etc. It can help the management to have all the audits being done in a customized form. We're looking into these customized audits, how it can be used with the current code of practice being established or the guideline being established by Ministry of Public Health in Qatar in 2020. They have included 4 parts. Basically, if you look into it, there's the first part A, which is 6 prerequisite programs, part B with the operational controls, and part C with the management, and some formats, records, and supplements even at 9. And when you look into this prerequisite programs, or when you look into this codex guidelines or the Qatar Code of Practice, in line with the International Codex Alimentarius Commission, International Food Safety Standards, or if in line with the any other HACCP requirement standards, you can see all those characteristics or all those requirements which is there on the codex has been taken up by this code of practice as well. So it covers all the major prerequisite programs, and also it covers all the international level. If you look at the HACCP part, it has covered the prerequisites and the hazard analysis part. Or if you look at the ISO standard, it has covered the operational controls, the pre-operational requisites or the operational requisites, and all these things has been controlled, or all these things has been connected to this code of practice. I don't want to go deep into the code of practice because it's time consuming to go part by part into that. I will just take you through what are the basic features they have characterized in each of these requirements. So when you say prerequisite programs, they have brought into subclasses like 6.1 to 6.10, where it started with buildings, their interiors, the waste disposal, the pest management program, cleaning and disinfection program, equipments and utensils. So all these requirements are highlighted one by one. So it becomes easy for the manufacturers or the caterers or the service organizations to look into each and every requirements, what has been stated, and comply to those requirements. So these are some of the prerequisite programs that has been highlighted in the Qatar Codex, the Qatar standards. And 7 is the operational controls where they have brought into all the operational prerequisites like cooking, cooling, baking, reheating, food displays, machine production inside the facility, which is ice cream machine production inside the facilities, then packing, end product, and labeling. So these are the operational controls, and each has various requirements being put up, which time doesn't permits me to go into details of those requirements. And part C is the management part, or the top management commitment part, which comes into like traceability of the products, or the recall procedures in case of any emergencies or situations in which needs to be recalled. What are the procedures? Non-conforming products, in case of any non-conformance has been identified for the product, what should be the procedures? And customer handling procedures. So these are the management part covered in the MOPH guidelines released in 2020. Now in SGS, we have the technological and innovation process wherein we have introduced our CATS program, which is called as the Customized Assessment Tracking System, wherein this is the customized audit program which has been done online through SGS. And in this particular, this is a management system standard, or whether it is an HACCP or ISO requirement or regulatory requirement, the organizational requirements can be customized, or the audit criteria can be systemized by us. And it will include a standard reporting program with the top 3-line summaries and key findings. It's easy to view and share. It's easy to configure to individual requirements for data presentation and analysis. It's direct real-time access to audit data. And all these things are through our CATS program. So this is our CATS program. It has a flexibility, it's multilingual. It has a workflow. It has an usability process. It has a reporting form. It's highly efficient, and it has transparency, easy access to the data. This is our audit process. Basically, it goes with. So when you look into this audit process, you can see we can set up it for any client, whether it is a catering, whether it's a chain of hotels, whether it is a manufacturing company. We can set up it as a project, and we can use it in multi locations, whether it is in Qatar, whether it is in Dubai, or whether it is in Kuwait or Oman. There are operations in everywhere. And it has a self-assessment program. When we schedule the audit, and the audit is being done, and it is reported, and that audit is being reviewed by a technical person, and then the report is submitted, and then you go for the corrective and preventive action management, which is CAPA management. So this is the basic audit or customized audit process flow we follow. You can see these are some of the things from the software developed called CATS. You can have every location being identified, the scheduling being done on these locations, which are the auditors that will be doing the audit, the availability of the auditors, and how it will be done, those things. And finally, as you see that once the audit is being done, there is an evaluation done by a second person from SGS. So an auditor performance, or the KPIs for the auditors, are also even done through these processes, how effective the auditing was. So this is how we maintain and develop our qualified technical resources for this particular program. We have added a lot of auditors, trained, experienced, qualified auditors to this particular program. And then here you have the corrective and preventive action, the management part. When any non-conformity is identified during the course of the audit, is being raised as a non-conformity, which can be a minor, major, or an observation. So in such cases, those will be identified on the CAPA management, and the corrective action taken by the organization will be reviewed and verified and reviewed. So all this history will be there in this particular software developed for or customized for any particular client. We will be using that. So these will be the dashboards, your scoring patterns, data management, and how it is being reported. You will have users, it will be shared to the company representatives for action to be taken before the next audit. And all these audits, basically, it helps the top management in such a way that these audits are done unannounced. So how that will really help them to basically know how their operations works in ensuring food safety. So this particular, and also keep them updated of what is their status in regard to food safety compliances in their organization. So this has been used by a lot of multinational companies, brands, and SGS as a lot of customized audits being done for various brands globally. So this is just the screenshot of how the reporting will each department wise. Say, for example, if you take cleaning and sanitization program, you can see what is the scores achieved and what is the scores, previous scores, last 5 audit scores. You can go for that. Or if you take into personal hygiene, or if you take into hazard management or hazard management plans, how it has been done. So all these will give you a clear pictorial as well as a descriptive methodology of reporting. So these are the schedules being scheduled monthly wise, but of course, most of them becomes unannounced. So this is how the technical review happens, and the reviewer, date, signature, everything will come up. The CAPA audit reports, the corrective and preventive action, how many majors was there, how many critical was there. So then how many corrective actions they have taken, all those things will come up in these things. So this is how the reporting has been. So just to sum up on these things, basically, just to give an overall benefit of having this customized food audits through CATS reporting, it will mitigate your market risk. Basically, the risk related with the food safety, customer complaint or consumer health, risk of placing unsafe products in the market. It will reduce financial losses because n number of it can reduce food complaints and then compensation claims, etc. Product recalls in case of any major issues of any particular product. In case of a manufacturing company, can avoid these type of recalls if you have these customized audit programs under control. The penalties raised by the authorities on their surprise visits. So basically, when you have these things established and when you have the flow of all the compliances in your food safety management system, so these type of audits can really support having all these things reduced in such a way that the company doesn't suffer. When the brand doesn't suffer, the reputation doesn't suffer. So it will safeguard the brand image and the company image. So these are the things basically on a customized audit. And that's from my side. Thank you very much. Thank you all.
Thank you so much, Alex, for the presentation, giving us an overview of the inspection and auditing technology that you're reporting that you have on the CATS. We'll shortly be having a we'll show the participants. If you can just, Mr. Alex, could you just please stop sharing your presentation? If you can just stop sharing the presentation so we can remove from the screen. That's great. Thank you. We'll be having a panel discussion. So I'd like you to stay online for the panel discussion and join the panel discussion with the other presenters that we have in the morning session. And we'll have some time for interaction and questions from Hamad is there, Omar is there, Dr. Feroz is there, Dr. Masoud is they're all online. That's
morning.
Great for the panel discussion. Mr. Hamad is also there for the panel discussion as well. Thank you so much, Mr. Hamad, for joining us today on the panel discussion. We have a few questions coming in based on the presentation that we have been honored to receive today. The first question for Dr. Masoud Al-Mari is relating to the forthcoming World Cup in Qatar, in Doha 2022. Do we have, Dr. Masoud, if you can just share with us if there's any specific strategy that you have to ensure food safety and quality in next year? How
can the question be repeated? Because I think we had
manage food safety in restaurants.
I
can repeat the question again. Is that better for you now? The question relates to the strategy that Qatar has relating to the quality and food safety in restaurants during the World Cup 2022. The strategy that you may have developed to cater for the quality and safety of food in restaurants during the event.
Yeah, actually, we have a strategy with the Ministry of public health. Already they have their strategy and they developed their strategy. At the same time, they are now establishing a new system for the monitoring, depending on what they call it, through digital system, so they can do the traceability for all the supply chain for the food, so they can monitor and they can attract any source of contamination that will help really in secure the food safety and make it easy for the traceability.
That's great. I think that was leading on to the next question that was asked, and you've also answered this question as well. The question that we had was, do we have in Qatar now any type of digital technology to enhance food safety management? So I think you've answered that question. Thank you so much for that response. If you want to clarify anything further, please let me know.
As I said, we had a few weeks ago, there was a national dialogue for our food system. And that system, the digital system, the smart system, has been discussed. And we found that it's a powerful system that really can control the food safety and quality.
That's great. Thank you so much, Dr. Masoud, for that response. The next question that I have is for Mr. Omar. Mr. Omar, we have a question asking if there's any newsletter that you publish regularly to update information about regulatory requirements.
Yes, actually, we do have a free newsletter that is provided by Rakam. We send it on regular basis, usually weekly basis, based on the industry. So we have two types of newsletters, the F&B and the cosmetics, but the F&B tackles all the regulations that are or the news or the circulars, the standards that we identify or we can capture in the MENAT region. So it includes GCC, Levant, North Africa, and Turkey as well. We try to inform everyone that is subscribed to the newsletter about all the updates that are happening in order to help them be more proactive in their operations. You can subscribe to the newsletter by visiting our website, rakam.com, and then you will find the subscription form, or you can contact any of Rakam's representatives and we can help subscribe you to the newsletter. And yeah, on weekly basis, you will receive all the updates, all the regulations, most of the news and the circulars and the standards that are happening.
That's great. Thank you so much, Omar, for that. Next question is for Mr. Jose Alex. The question was, are there any regulatory requirements regarding disposal of expired food that you may find during the audit? So if you had during the audit, you find some expired food, are there any requirements regarding the disposal of this that you follow as an auditor?
As an auditor, based on the expired food being found, we can only identify it as a major non-conformances. As a regulatory authorities are the ones who will be responsible for initiating those actions in terms of if they find the expired food on the in the shelf or in the fridges or whatever. But as an auditor, when we go for audits, we find it as a major non-conformances on expired products, or sometimes it might be highlighted as a non-conformity as well, as a major non-conformity, and they have to go for the corrective actions. But as a regulatory, they have procedures of regulatory procedures of it when they find during their inspection there is an expired food detail there.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Alex, for that one. A few questions for Mr. Hamad from the Qatar Free Zone Authority. Mr. Hamad, thank you for joining us for the panel discussion, first of all.
Thank you for having us.
Okay. The first question, Mr. Hamad, is how does the Qatar Free Zone Authority support development of the food sector in Qatar?
Thank you for having us again. I think the Free Zone from the get-go aimed to be very aligned with the food security, with the national food security program and the strategies of Qatar. Dr. Masoud, who's with us in the panel, is a strong member and a good colleague. We have very strong coordination with the Ministry of MME and with Dr. Masoud being a member and Undersecretary of the Supreme Food Security Committee in Qatar. So not only with MME, we work also with the Ministry of Health to ensure that any process within the free zone is in compliance and to the highest standard of safety, of food relating safety and security, to ensure that the companies can enter the product not only to the local market, but they can also export to the GCC countries and beyond.
That's great. Thank you so much, Mr. Hamad, for that. The second question we have for you, keeping you busy this morning, is what is the Free Zone Authority doing to ensure standards are maintained of food safety within the Free Zone operations?
So, as I mentioned, we work very closely with the Ministry of Health to ensure that all the Free Zone companies, investors are confirmed not only to the local standard, but also confirmed to the international standards. We have our own process that developed in conjunction with the Ministry of Health. We also, very interestingly, just recently, the Free Zone announced project of Just Eat regulations, which is a project that will produce both cellular meat chicken and also plant-based egg. So we're working with the Ministry of Health to ensure that the regulations within the country allows for this investor to produce their products in a safe, manageable way. So it's putting Qatar not only in a very pioneering position where we can adjust the regulations working with the Ministry of Health to ensure that this investor can do his investment safely, and this product can be acceptable not only in the local market, but also for exporting beyond the local market.
That's great. Thank you, Zach, for the response. And talking about exporting to beyond the local market as well, how do you see the future of food production in Qatar and, of course, in the region, in the GCC countries? How do you see that coming forward in the near future?
So the food consumption in the GCC alone is expected to reach 60 million tons by 2030, which is a 20% increase from today's total consumption. The world population is expected to increase by 2 billion by 2050. So Qatar is well positioned, and we're trying to build a program that's already unsustainable. We're trying to solve this problem by being extra sustainable in a way. So Free Zone is actively pursuing new and exciting areas of food production, plant-based food, cell-based foods, protein alternatives, nutraceuticals, dairy alternatives. We believe that Qatar location and through the through collaboration between Qatar Airways and Hamad Port, Qatar is very well situated to specifically build a cluster around these pillars, and we believe that Qatar could have a step forward to serve the international market in these pillars that I mentioned.
That's great. So what I understand is that Qatar has the infrastructure, has the commitment and strategy to take on the needs of food production in the future in the region, not only locally in Qatar itself, but also across the GCC countries.
Yes, and additionally, what these kind of industries bring is we're trying to develop a food hub that will mix both, that will focus on the production of the food, so vertical, any last cutting edge technologies when it comes to farming, linking to any added technology that will, in terms of processing, linking to any cutting-edge technology leading to logistics and moving of the food to and from Qatar. So that they were trying to develop a model that will answer all the three questions and will enable Qatar to kind of have a step forward beyond to what, for example, in other GCC countries like Dubai or Saudi Arabia.
That's great. That's a very thorough response to the questions. Thank you so much, Mr. Ahmad, for your input on that. That's provided a lot of clarification that people were having in terms of questions relating to the Free Zone Authority and what you do there in Qatar. Thank you so much again for that. Dr. Feroz, we just have a questions regarding the presentation that you've made. Regarding the cell system in comparison to other existing cell models, how can we have the hepatoma cell system that you mentioned regards to assessing food safety in the context of the hepatoma cell system?
Actually, it's an interesting question. The rationale for setting up the cell system is that it's the most similar to the situation that we have in human hepatocyte, because all the other studies have been done so far. They use other animals or other in vitro cell system. Now we have the cell line that is most mimic the situation of our hepatocyte. And one of the important rationale to do this type of studies is that many of the chemicals, once we are being tested in other systems, coming negative because they need a metabolic activation presence in the in vivo in human via the liver. And this is the only cell types that maintain, as I already presented, maintain both phase 1 that does activation, and as well as phase 2 that they do detoxification, meaning that we avoid of getting any false positive or false negative, and that makes the whole system very unique. And above that is that we have generated 14 different types of the biological assay to address the question with regard to genotoxicology. And knowing the fact that we are now doing very sensitive cell system, we can define for the first time at biologically relevant doses to human. That has not been done ever before.
That's very good. Thank you. Thank you for that response. And using the hepatoma cell system, can that also be used for developing medicines and explore other areas of development leading forward to improvement of human health and looking at risk to health?
Yeah, and actually the whole and rationale is that by doing this application of this cell system, we can actually re-examine all existing human dietary components. But above that, it's very interesting point to mention is that it can be also applied in the situation of drug development. Many of the traditional herbs that we have in the Middle East now all can be revisited in a system that is most relevant to human use. And for the first time ever, since, as I mentioned to you, we can define the microsome out of human hepatoma cells. We can take the blood from the patient, expose it in vitro to the choice of the chemotropic drugs, including the microsome from HepG2 cells, and we can assess the damage. In other words, for the first time ever, we can do personalized medicine, and all the processes takes only 3 days. All the studies have been done so far for drug development are based on animal studies. And mostly when 50% of the animals, they die, they use it for human and they call it LD50, lethal dose 50. But now for the first time, we can apply this one. As I said, the whole exercise takes only 3 days, and we can do for each individual patient, we can do the test and we can assess the right dose to be done in order to good effect on the tumor and the least effect on normal cells.
So there's obviously a lot of benefits that could be brought about by using this type of technology for future medicine research and development of different types of therapy, as you mentioned, chemotherapy, and also maybe drug therapy as well, to support the positive health impact on this type of technology in the future.
Exactly, and this is actually the rationale, because as the director of the GHI section of the genotoxicology and genomics, my vision is that to set up this type of system worldwide, as I have done already. And again, this is a good approach. I really appreciate the effort being taken by the Minister of the Health and as well as the Minister of Environment, especially a particular group of Dr. Al-Mari, that I wish to set up the similar type of the assay in Qatar in one of some of the research and educational center. And this is the work that I'm now already started, and we are progressing on this matter, I hope soon.
That's great. I think maybe in the future, Dr. Ferozi, we can see you on the Nobel Prize of Development of Medicine or whatever you have in that category. So we look forward to that. Thank you so much for that, and appreciate your input on the questions. Thank you. Just coming back to Mr. Omar. Mr. Omar, just a number of clarifications regarding the import of fruits and vegetables into Qatar, based on the Ministry of Public Health. Are there any specific regulations related to the importation of fruits and vegetables into Qatar as a country?
So this usually requires, thank you for the question. It is very important. This usually falls under research. It requires a certain research. There's always regulations and standards, or if there's no local regulations, usually an authority or an importation authority would follow certain standards based on the authority recommendations that are on international level. So I'm not sure specifically if there is fruit and vegetables in Qatar as of now. I'm sure there's a GSO standard, and also in some cases EU and Codex standards are followed in terms of these requirements. This is depending on the timeline of the importation. When is it expected to be imported, the categories of the imported foods, and the country it is imported to. Of course, in Qatar, I am not specifically sure about the availability of such a regulation, but it needs a research and identification analysis of all requirements before any operation of export or import is taken.
Right. Thank you so much for that. Just a final question, sorry, Mr. Omar, on this one. There's a question came in from the participants regarding the disposal of expired food products. So we touched on this one during the presentation from Jose Alex. Is it correct to say that the expired food product disposal program is related to the individual regulatory authority? They're the ones who are regulating how the food is disposed of. Of course, this is talking about food security and food fraud, the possibility of things that are expired that are not disposed of, possibly coming back into the food chain. So are there any specific regulations, or is it up to the mandatory requirements made by regulatory authorities?
Okay, can you repeat the beginning of the question? Your voice cut down a little bit.
Yeah, sorry about that. I'll just summarize the question again. Are there any specific requirements regarding disposal of expired food products?
Okay, there are again international standards, but in Qatar itself, I don't have the exact information with me. But yes, there are international standards when it comes to the disposing of any expired products. This is a very important thing to discuss and consider. Again, a research is required, and then an implementation plan should be put together to kind of reduce the impact of this dispose on the environment itself.
Right. Dr. Masoud, can I just pose a question to yourself on expired food, maybe a part of regulatory authorities? In Qatar, is there a specific requirement on how the food is disposed if it's found to be expired in manufacturing or production or restaurants, etc.?
Yes, actually, there is a procedure. There is the approval should be from the municipality. When you have any expired goods, foods, you have to have approval from the municipality in order to take it to the facility. There is a treatment facility in Qatar. It belongs to the government, so they can treat it and convert it to fertilizer, or they can generate power also from other goods, which is not suitable for fertilizer. But they should get approval from the municipality and send it to the central station.
That's great. Thank you for clarification, Dr. Masood, on that question. And a question for the panel, whole panel as a general question. We've gone through now we are going through still the COVID-19 pandemic, which has been with us now for just over 2 years. In terms of the COVID pandemic, what do you feel are the learnings that we've taken on board from COVID-19 pandemic, which is having some sort of an impact on food safety and security? Are there any lessons that we can learn from the pandemic, and how we can take on these learnings to ensure and improve food safety and food security? It's a general question to anybody on the panel.
I think from my side, the investors are realizing that they shouldn't be as centralized in their production, and that they should distribute their production facilities across the world. That's one. I think the second point is logistics. Logistics is becoming front and center when it comes to food and food security, and especially how do you the way that you move the food in a way that it will not affect the quality and the safety of the food itself. So it's becoming front and center for a lot of the different investors that we're talking to.
That's good. Thank you. Thank you for that. Anyone else would like to make any comments on that?
Yeah, if I may have a comment, yeah, indeed, because this is a very interesting topic you approach. By doing being in the field of genotoxicology, one of the approaches we have taken is that not only to try to define the effect of the genotoxicant or anti-genotoxicant, we also expand it further. We look for the profile of the responsible enzyme of causing all the events. And this is again coming to the issue of the COVID. Once the COVID came, it's apparently all the vaccines are being generated are regarding to some special protein. They call it a spiky protein. And at least in the case of the COVID and onwards, what we are doing, we are now by gaining knowing the knowledge about this type of protein, we are now developing the drug as such that we can deactivate production of this protein in human. And this can also pave the way not only for the COVID, but for any other type of vaccine that may unfortunately come in future.
Thank you so much, Dr. Feroz, on that one. Mr. Dozie Alex, how do you approach this topic of COVID-19? Are you including some of the COVID requirements as part of the food safety audits that you're doing in businesses?
Yeah, actually, COVID-19 audits actually in Qatar, again, the Ministry of Public Health has released the COVID-19 requirements that to be followed by 5-star hotels or catering facilities, and the general COVID-19 requirements by FAO. So a combination of these two requirements is being considered by us for the COVID-19 audit itself. We do COVID-19 audits in Qatar for catering companies as well as the hotels. So a combination of the Qatar regulations on COVID-19 issued by Ministry of Public Health for catering establishments, plus the FAO guidelines for COVID-19 has been used as the audit criteria, and compliance to this has been ensured by most of the organizations in Qatar.
Thank you so much for that.
And in relation to COVID-19, if you look into, because we deal with a lot of industries, basically food and non-food sectors, you can see now most of the companies or organization has moved to business continuity management programs. In case of any emergency situations, or you can say emergency preparedness programs like business continuity. So in such cases, if it happens again, what should be their plan B or what should be their plan? So most of the organizations now you can see is establishing this business continuity plans as such, because they don't want to have a second suffering again with some pandemics or any other issues. So it is there.
Yes, yes. That's great. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
And
if I may add, Mr. Abdul.
Yes, Mr.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
So from a consultancy point of view, there has been different impacts for COVID-19 on different industries. So for the HoReCa, it was a really bad and downstream. I would say it was a dreadful impact. While for the F&B manufacturing, it wasn't as such. And actually, the F&B had the chance and opportunity to thrive during this time to manufacture more food, since people were tending more to purchase more products from retailers and from online shops and e-commerce and so on. But in general, the COVID-19 just provided us with an insight of how serious we need to be, and how important and how impactful it would be to monitor all that is happening around the world, innovations in terms of manufacturing and R&D innovations, and at the same time, innovations of regulations, and kind of put in all the effort. There will be no wasted effort in there to be more proactive rather than reactive, and expect that things are not going to be easy in this term. This is a very serious subject, and that we need to put as much effort as possible to innovate new things and counter upcoming also serious or crises in the future.
Great, thank you. We began this panel discussion with a question to Dr. Masoud, and we'll close the session again with the last question to Dr. Masoud again. Dr. Masoud, just for your comments on this impact of learnings from the COVID-19 pandemic on food safety and security. I'm sure as a regulatory body, you have lots of input on this, combined with other regulatory authorities that are part of Qatar. What would you say on this learning from pandemic and how we can
actually,
future security?
The contamination that could happen from handling the food has been considered in the beginning, and our public health ministry really announced about that, and given to all the supplier the instruction to take care of that issue, and have the certificate from the source that can declare that there is no contamination, and also all the staff handling that foods should be free from that disease. So, but at the same time, that action or procedure, was in the short notice, and caused some of the delay, of supplying the food to Qatar. So that helped in the future to consider it in the beginning, to take the precaution without, delay, supplying food to the country. So I think they developed a procedure to check without delaying supplying food to Qatar.
Thank you so much, Dr. Masoud, for that input on the question. And on that topic, we're going to close the panel discussion. But before we close, I'd like to thank you sincerely for taking time out, Mr. Omar, Dr. Feroz, and Dozie Alex. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedules. We appreciate your presence and expert input onto the topic that we discussed today. Of course, we'll continue the session after the break, but if you're able to join us, please do so. From the organizers and from myself as a chairperson, for your participation, for your time, which is really appreciated. Thank you very much.
Thank you for this opportunity.
Welcome back. Welcome back to the conference. We're just continuing to our next presenters. And the first presenter that we have is Mr. Sandeep. Sandeep is the country HSQ manager for Compass in Qatar, and he's been working for Qatar. Can you go and share the screen, Mr. Sandeep? Yes, please. Please go ahead. Mr. Sandeep is part of the Compass Group. He's a country HSQ manager.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to session 2. We have facing some technical challenges. So now I would request our next speaker, that is Mr. Sandeep Vasudevan, country HSCQ manager, Compass Qatar, to start his presentation. Thank you.
Good morning, all. Welcoming all to the session. Thank you, Mr. Abdul Rashid, for giving an introduction on behalf of me. Compass Qatar congratulates the organizers for organizing the first ever food safety conference in Doha. And we are highly privileged to be a partner of the event. Before I start the presentation, I would like to give a brief introduction about what Compass is and the history of Compass as such. Compass was founded in 1941 in the UK and is on the London Stock Exchange, was one of the Fortune, listed on one of the Fortune companies in 2020. It's the world's largest catering and support services company. Compass in Qatar is active for the last 22 years, catering to oil and gas, healthcare, business and industry, education, defense, and correctional. We operate in 45 countries. We have 55,000 client locations. We have more than 500,000 staff. And we govern ourselves with, like, our governance is with regards to ethics and governance. And we serve 5.5 billion meals per year. So taking into account that there might be some viewers who will not be familiar with food, I will just touch the definitions of food traceability and product recall before I go on to the main topic. Food traceability is the ability to follow the movement of a food product and its ingredient through all steps in supply chain, both backward and forward. Traceability helps keep track of food in supply chain, which supports accurate withdrawal and recall of unsafe food. Product recall is defined as the action to remove food from the market at any stage of the food chain that may be possessed by consumers. Moving on to the next slide, you can see on the screen different stages of the supply chains, what we are having right now from farm to our home. So a typical food supply chain involves 6 to 8 stages. It can begin from the farm, and I will give an example of a livestock supply chain process. So for a livestock feed, it starts from the farm and then moves on to the processing and manufacturing and distribution. Finally, it reaches the retailer. A long supply chain can result in vast amount of information. Each stages include numerous number of data which are interest to the consumers, from chemicals, what is being used in the feed for the livestock, the drugs, what is being used for the animal's life, and the locations where it is being processed, produced, manufactured, and the company who is certifying the processing plant, etc. All these data, it's quite hard to capture, track, and verify. No single party in the current supply chain is responsible. There are various parties who are involved in the whole of supply chain, starting from large to the smallest. The smallest being the farmer, the basic one. And there is no fail-safe mechanism for detecting issues. Inspecting and testing are the standard methods which are used to confirm food provenance, quantity, and safety. But the volumes involved in the global industry, food industry, means that samplings can only ever verify the conformity a small fraction of foods sold. So complete verification at this point of time is extremely costly. Sampling at any level can provide complete traceability. Yet the alternative third-party inspections always exist. So moving on to the next slide, what are the key food safety issues we are facing in the current supply chain, lack of product traceability, generational demands, food fraud, that is counterfeit products, complicated inventory management, lack of transparency in labeling, slow product innovation cycle. So these are the issues what we are facing currently, and that's why we are talking about today's topic. Moving on to the next slide, we'll take you to the history of blockchain. But have you ever imagined a future in which a shopper can walk into a store, use their smartphone to flash a code on a product and see its complete history at a glance, where it comes from, how it has been made, and how its safety and quality has been ensured? Sounds amazing. Sorry. It sounds amazing. Well, this could be the future soon. Consumers are always demanding perfect food transparency, available at a swipe of a finger. But cost and logistics traditionally have always been an issue. That's why we are having a disruptive technology, a blockchain, as such, been discussed today. If we talk about the history of blockchain, it was first defined in 1991, which means it's nothing new. It's been there for years, and it has been evolved during all these years. In 2009, blockchain was first used for the Bitcoins for financial transactions. And then in 2014, the blockchain was further used for agriculture and food industry and for various other sectors. Moving on to the next slide, this slide will make you understand how the blockchain works and what are the futures. So blockchain is nothing but a shared, distributed, and decentralized ledger that makes it possible to record transactions and track assets. What are the futures of blockchain? Blockchain is programmable. A blockchain can have smart contracts for within itself. That means if A and B or N number of people want to have their own requirement, they can set their own requirement into the program, and they can have a block which will be later on connected to a chain. The blockchain asset is very secure. It's only accessible to those people who are actually attached to the program. It's anonymous, it's unanimous, and it's distributed. So as I told, that the blockchain have N number of people from start to end. That means all the network participants will have complete information from start to the end, including the consumer. Blockchain is immutable. That means if a data is being entered into a block, then the data is fixed. It's irreversible. There cannot be any change in the data. So traditionally, all members of the network or supply chain keep their own records, which may be checked by a third party, for example, an audit. All of this makes blockchain very ideal for end-to-end traceability, as it is designed to track asset creation, transformation, transactions, and now for food technology. So how does a blockchain work? The flow chart on your screen, which shows a transaction happening. So A and B, they wish to conduct an interaction and a transaction. Once they agree on a transaction, there are cryptographic keys which are assigned to the interactions. After this, the interaction is broadcasted and verified to a distributed network. Once the information is validated, a new block is created. Then the block goes and adds on to the chain, creating a permanent golden source of interaction. And hence, the last step, the transaction is completed. This is how normally a blockchain works. So talking about the benefits of blockchain, it's cost-wise, it's most affordable. Currently, in the current supply chain management system, every player has to bear the cost. Here, there is an agreed cost from all the parties. So the cost is shared between all the parties, which makes it more reliable. Security-wise, as I told, that it's irreversible. It's not changeable. So and nobody can change the data. So it's more safer. Efficiency-wise, it has been tested by major brands, which I will be showing on the next slide. Transparency and traceability has been approved. There are various brands which have been proved with the transparency and traceability. It's a very controlled network. It simplifies the food recall process. Normally, a food recall process takes days, but by implementation of blockchain, it takes seconds. It's simpler. It's in terms of regulatory compliance, it's very simple. It reduces the retailer's cost and streamlines the supply chain. And in terms of food fraud, it's having a huge savings in terms of food fraud. So these are some of the benefits what are being shared for blockchain. Some of the major players who are using blockchains are listed on the screen. IBM is one of them, one of the initial players who used blockchain, and they had a success. MPOC is Malaysian palm oil company which uses sustainability as well as blockchain. Carrefour, every one of us go and shop to Carrefour. They have products which are being going through blockchain, which means that we can have an app on our phone and we can go and just scan the QR code and we can find that from where the product is coming, and there will be a complete traceability for the same. Moving on to the next slide is showing an example of real-time tracking. So how does the tracking happen? Imagine if a retailer could see and validate with 100% certainty where each food item was grown, handled, processed, stored, and inspected. Blockchain technology has the potential to make this a reality. With blockchain, there are no gaps in history, location, and status of a food product. Instead, you can see the whole picture. So if the retailer becomes aware of potentially deadly issue with watermelon, for example, participants of the blockchain network can view the entire history of that melon to find the root of the problem. And where necessary, the melon from that specific farm or batch can be recalled rapidly. How rapidly? Here is one of the examples. In one of the case, Walmart decided to explore food supply chain traceability and tried to recall the mangoes what were on their shelf. It took them 6 days, 18 hours and 26 minutes. Using blockchain, it took them 2.2 seconds. How fast it is, isn't it? So the technology is amazing. And but as said, every technology has benefits and limitations, which I will be discussing in the last slide. The slide on your screen now shows a typical example of a fish supply chain traceability, which you can see the 3 blocks, which are the blocks that's fishing vessels, discharge, transport, truck, processing, final product, retailer check. All these blocks sends messages to the servers which are connected through block, and then finally the consumer can see from where the product is coming in. So blockchain requires some level of governance. For a blockchain for traceability to work, participants' identity must be verified, and this requires a third party or a consortium to handle identity verifications and management. Data entry processes and interfaces need verifications to ensure that they capture real life situations correctly and fully. The blockchain also needs to include appropriate checks to ensure that members cannot collude the block outside the blockchain to validate fraudulent transactions. Finally, the blockchain's model should be agreed. This is a low additional cost. There is no additional cost for implementation of the blockchain blockchain model. And as said, my final slide would be stating some limitations in terms of the blockchain model. Number one, there is lack of awareness among the people. That's why I'm here talking today about blockchain. Frankly speaking, till I went through the articles, I was not aware of what blockchain is and how good is blockchain. So secondly, consensus mechanism. Every party needs to agree on the requirement on the blockchain, which is very difficult, but it can happen. Technology has proved it. Many brands have proved it. Scalability. Currently, the blockchain as such is only valid, or it's only prevailing in an area. So countries, regions needs to get together and need to agree on this technology and the usage. Limited availability of technical expertise, as blockchain is mostly and entirely dependent on IT support. The technical availability right now it's very limited. It's immutable. When it's good for food safety, it's some ways it's bad for food safety. Yes, it's immutable. That means the data which is entered first, it remains as it is. But we need to ensure that the data which goes into the initial phase, it's the right data. And finally, the key management. So these are some of the limitations of blockchain. Hopefully, it's been said that within the next 5 years, there will be more brands joining the blockchain. And I think it would be a good option to for us to add this to 2030 vision, also which is a sustainability, which is supporting sustainability. So that's all from my side. Thank you very much for hearing me patiently. Thank you.
So thank you so much, Sandeep, for the presentation. And if you can please stay around for the panel discussion later on. The next topic is actually myself. If I can ask Sandeep to stop sharing the presentation, please, so I can put my presentation on the screen. Thank you, Sandeep. Right. Continuing with the theme of the conference, which is improving food safety with the use of new technology. My presentation is going to be focusing on how to approach the training of food handlers and using technology to make sure people understand exactly what food safety concepts are, and also how we can utilize technology to enhance food safety understanding. As a company, Pillsbury Health Consultants, we have another company business based in Finland, which under the name of Berry Media. And Berry Media is our in-house technology media production unit, which produces lots of animations and programs for learning, improvement of learning and understanding on food safety. We've involved ourselves in producing online assessments, which I'll discuss as part of this program, as well as the use of animation in food safety, and also gamification, which we'll talk about in this presentation. So today's presentation is looking at the concept of learning, how people learn, traditionally, and also now with the new technology and social media and uses of different types of media production to increase learning within participants who come onto training courses. We look at how testing has been done traditionally with various methods of multiple choice test papers, as well as short answer questions and long answer questions and essay formats. That's also something we look at in terms of traditional methods of testing. We're going to focusing on gamification. A lot of the generation that we are in now is very mobile active, and a lot of gaming activities going on globally around the world, and how we can utilize this approach of gamification to convert it into something which is much more educational and use it to improve food safety understanding amongst participants, as well as the actual testing of these online. We're also going to be touching on what we call interactive visual assessment. This is an IVA program that creates a reality surrounding environment, so people can actually imagine that they are based in a working environment and assess how they're going to act in terms of the methods of assessment and how they can improve their understanding and knowledge of concepts. We're going to be looking at the benefits IVA promotes in terms of understanding and improvement of skills. Now, if you look at the theory of learning, learning has been broken down to 3 different elements, which is behaviorism, cognitism, and constructivism. These theories have been around the psychology environment for a long time. And the concept of cognitism is based on learning through understanding, using basically the head, if you like, and having the knowledge-based environment that you learn in. Typically, a cognitive learning environment would be somewhere that you look at a university or school, more of educational aspect of learning. And then you also have the behaviorism and constructivism. Now, these 2 types of learning of theories is not just having the knowledge, but also try to understand how knowledge that you have will lead to change of behavior. And constructivism is much more in terms of practical approach to learning activities and not just a theoretical approach to learning activities. So these are traditional ways of learning where people have used in different fields in education. We're focusing on, of course, now, as well as this, we're focusing on vocational learning in terms of food safety programs, health and safety programs, and all of these aspects are part of the learning process. Now, the behavioral change is what we are trying to understand, and how we can create this knowledge that we get from cognitism to create this environment situation where the people change their behavior. Having the knowledge of the importance of hand washing as an example is important. So you have the knowledge based on the hand washing process. So in the training programs, trainers often talk about the hand washing procedure. And now we've got to change this to actual understanding. So how do we actually make the people understand the importance of hand washing, not just tell them the steps of hand washing by itself? So this is linked to behaviorism. How do we change behavior? How do we approach the training process to change behavior? And also, constructivism is focusing on the individual experiences. Based on the environment that you work in, you have experience on that environment, you will act and behave in that environment, which is different to what you'll be doing when you're outside working, outside of working environment. So putting this into practice is what gamification produces in terms of the learning process. Now, the traditional learning theories are classified into the cognitism, as say, constructivism and behaviorism. Now we're in the digital age. The digital age is more about what is called connectivism. So it is basically connecting to the work environment, understanding the knowledge that you've gained, and ensuring that the knowledge base that you have is going to be able to be used in a practical environment situation and not just a theoretical environment. And this is what interactive visual assessment and gamification is trying to achieve, is trying to connect the activity of the new digital age to the learning process and take into account behavior, which is key in changing behavior and changing understanding as part of the digital age. So the gamification and IVA concepts are linked to the digital age process of learning, which is classified as connectivism. Now, if you look at the traditional ways of assessment, when people have done a training course and they want to assess the performance, Traditionally, what we have is multiple choice questions, MCQs. You have also gone through written examinations, assignments, and case studies. All of these have been traditionally used to assess understanding and that knowledge has been gained. However, these assume a certain level of literacy. Across the GCC countries, what we have is a very multinational, multicultural group of individuals who work in the food industry. The levels of literacy are perhaps not the same that you would expect. Some of the participants may not be able to read the English language or communicate in the English language. Some of them have challenges in learning their own language as well, reading information in their own language. So all of these become barriers for traditional methods of learning, where you have to read, you have to look at words, you have to understand words, and then you have to associate these words into your mind and then put forward an answer in a multiple choice question. So the challenge in the Middle East and GCC countries has been in the past, the level of literacy is not very high. The level of understanding language barriers creates additional challenges for people to learn and express themselves in an examination. So what we understand is that if you are looking at training and learning and assessment, you have three elements. You have knowledge, you have understanding of the knowledge, and the concepts which are important to make sure that the action that you are taking in order to control hazards and risk are in real life understood clearly for corrective action that you may be taking. So this is the concept of how we're going to move forward with the new age of technology. Now, if you are trying to improve food safety, you have to take these three elements together, the knowledge base, the understanding of concepts, and then convert them into actions. Because having the knowledge without converting to an action will not give you effective results. So knowledge, proper understanding will lead to effective corrective action taking place, ensuring the control of risk in food safety. That's the whole impact of food safety and the approach to the new technology that we'll be using in terms of food safety learning and training and assessment. Now, if you look at the people around in food industry, all of them have mobile phones. Every individual have a mobile phone in their hands to communicate. They are very good with social media. You have social media platforms like Facebook, Instagram. All of these elements are used by food handlers. So we are using something which is something that they already have as a tool. Everybody has a mobile phone. The concept of the gamification is to use the mobile phone to make it much more adaptable and user-friendly to promote learning through gamification. Now, if you're looking at gamification as a definition, it's the concept that you are having the components of a game and using the elements of education and concepts and knowledge and using this to enhance the learning process. So you have the opportunity to engage the student or the learner in the concept of gamification. That's what we are referring to in gamification education. It's the process of transforming typical academic components of knowledge into gaming themes. So here what we need to do is to ensure that people are motivated, and gamification gives that motivation that people need. You have increased competition. People are able to go to the next level. So here you can also include this in terms of the gamification process. Getting certain points, getting a certain level of game at a certain level, game level 1, level 2, level 3, will increase the motivation and encourage competition. Also, it involves creativity. People will be able to choose the different levels of games that they've gone into and hopefully get some positive feedback in terms of points, achieving points to achieve goals, and that includes having to learn information to get certain points. So this is the reasons why gamification will work. It's motivational, you're able to gain knowledge, and also you are able to achieve a target or progress through different levels of the game to achieve understanding. Now, this is an example of gamification. So the environment that you're producing in gamification is the one that the participant is familiar with, the kitchen environment, where he works. He can see the different aspects of the operation. He knows that he's there every day. He understands the environment. It's in his comfort zone, and that's very important. People, sometimes when you are taking people into the classroom, it creates additional stress, and that is not very useful for learning as an achievement. You're trying to produce new information or give new knowledge in a very different environment. So here, gamification advantage that you have is people are very familiar with the environment they're working in. It's a comfort zone. They see these elements every day of their daily routines. They know what a freezer is. They know what a chiller is, and this is reality in front of the element of learning. So here you see an example of gamification, different aspects of the kitchen, different activities like hand washing. You have activities like chilled storage, you have hot storage, you have cooking operations. So all of these are familiar to the individual who's there, and they can relate to this, and they can actually be much more comfortable in gaining knowledge because they are in the comfort zone. So this is an example you see on the screen of what gamification would feel like. It feels like the person is walking around in their own kitchen, and at the same time, they're learning information, they're gathering knowledge, and they are improving their understanding of concepts of food safety. So the IVA concept is looking at how to use digital technology, animation, motion graphics, all combined into one. And here what we are saying is that to achieve understanding, you have to have a practical approach to education and training. And this is what IVA provides. It provides an environment that people are comfortable in. It's the work environment that they can see. The assessment is hands-on. They will be using a thermometer to take temperature of a product that's been cooked or in the chiller. So this is hands-on. This is what they actually do in the environment every day. They're focusing on understanding and action. So an action is what has to be done to achieve, to control corrective actions and control risk. So it's not just about the knowledge that you are gaining, it's about the action that you take on board. So the actual platform that you have when we approach the IVA platform produced by Berry Media is that the person is secure. First of all, they have to use a username and password. They log in with their date of birth, with the company name, and also the name of the individual. So this is used to identify the individual and to ensure confidentiality and security. And this is also used to produce a certificate that they will achieve at the end of the assessment if they pass successfully. And again, we are talking about practical environment and practical approach. So this is what the person would see in a real life scenario. Starting at receiving, for example, they are receiving food from their suppliers. They know they have a checklist to check certain elements that they would go into, for example, like temperature control, vehicle registration, etc. So here, the candidate will be asked to choose which thermometer they'll be using to take the temperature. The choice is made between a probe thermometer and an infrared thermometer, depending on the type of food that you have, it's frozen or chilled. And the approach is that the participant will look for the question mark, and the question mark will then be used to take the temperature. Once you take the temperature using the probe, you will get an answer, and the answer will be either correct or incorrect. So this is testing knowledge. So you have two elements here. One is a practical approach. Can they use a thermometer? Do they know which thermometer to use appropriately to the temperature of the food and the condition of the food, if it's frozen or chilled? And then do they have the knowledge based on regulatory requirements? So is it correct, 7 degrees centigrade, or is it incorrect? So again, depending on the knowledge of the participant, he would choose the answer, and then he would go on to the next question. The next question takes him into the kitchen, for example, and here you've got a scenario where you are assessing the effective cleaning. And here you see a zoom in on the condition of the mincer and the part of the mincer, and you see some deposits of meat remnants. Is that correct or incorrect in terms of its effective cleaning is being done or not being done? So again, you are focusing on practical situations that people would face every day. Temperature of the product during storage. Here we've got a walk-in chiller, and the product is stored. The participant would go towards the question mark. He would have to choose which thermometer to use for temperature check, and then determine if the temperature is correct or incorrect. So again, it's knowledge, it's action, and controlling hazards. Going on to the next stage, walking through the corridor, again, a real-life environment, checking the disinfection process. Is it correct? Doing disinfection of vegetables and fruits. Again, some that is being used to every day in a work environment. They're familiar with the scenario, they're familiar with the actions, and they're familiar with the knowledge that they have on whether this is good or not good. Going on to other areas of the work environment, you can go through and check temperature of different products, cleaning, hot holding temperatures, again, familiarity with regulatory requirements, what temperature is hot holding. These can be adapted to local regulatory requirements. So if you're based in an environment where you have different regulatory requirements, we can adapt these to match those requirements. Temperature, and then at the end, you get a result. The result will give you an indication of how much you scored and what areas you had where you were wrong in the questions. And based on the environment that you have a what is called CPA. The CPA is candidate performance analysis. Here you were able to dictate, clearly understand which part of the syllabus the participant failed in or did not score well in, and which one they achieved good marks in. So you can say that this person had very poor knowledge on cross-contamination, but had good knowledge on pest control and temperature control, for example. At the end, you have a certificate produced with your name and date of birth, so it's very secure. You can go back and check as a training manager or learning development manager, you can go back and check the results of groups of individuals, different categories of the syllabus, etc. And this can be linked into the environment. We have a server dedicated to the data, so it's very secure. You can link this into regulatory requirements that you may have to upload data onto certain schemes. Like in Dubai, you have the Food Watch scheme, so you can upload the data onto the Food Watch scheme and provide a complete analysis on what's been achieved. This is the concept of IVA, gamification, and how to use technology to improve not just knowledge, but also understanding and taking actions based on concepts of food safety. We produce this product for global brands around the world, and we've had a lot of success with this product, and it's something which is very, very adaptable and flexible for everyone's use. Thank you for your time, for listening. Of course, if you have any questions, I'll be part of the panel later on for taking questions that you may have on the IVA or gamification or anything else that we are producing as part of the very media programs and also Pillsbury Health Consultancy Services. Thank you so much. Right, Mr. Ridha is our next presenter. Mr. Ridha is going to talk about the Internet of Things. Mr. Ridha is the co-founder and general manager of Internet of Things Plus Middle East, and he'll take us through to talk about the Internet of Things and how future food safety can be impacted on the Internet of Things. Mr. Ridha.
Hi, good morning. Good morning, Abdul Rashid. Thank you for the introduction. Good morning, everybody. I will share my screen with the presentation first. So as said, we will talk today about food safety and the Internet of Things. My name is Ridha Abi Faraj. I'm the General Manager of IoT Plus Middle East. During the last 5 years, our major role with regards to food safety was to introduce IoT and its benefits to the F&B industry. In the previous sessions, I was listening to Dr. Masoud Al-Marri, and he was talking about contamination, which happens from handling the food or due to a delay in delivery. So this thing, like from the health authority, should be dealt with, and especially like by introducing the real-time monitoring solutions, which is essential nowadays to monitor the food while it is transferring the food or delivering it, or while it is in storage, just to avoid the foodborne illnesses and the expensive food recalls. So nowadays, with the introducing of wireless temperature sensors, the GPS systems, which is like available to everybody, and detection scanners, using this technology or the IoT technology is making all of these like no expensive food recalls or no foodborne illnesses, or to reduce it to the minimum. So as I said, like during our, especially in UAE, during the last 5 to 7 years, we were like introducing the IoT and trying to teach and learn how it is beneficial to the food industry, and how to get the technology to the food safety vertical. So each restaurant, each food supplier can benefit, each farmer, even each transporter supplier can benefit from these solutions and start using the IoT like we have done in the last 5 years in Dubai. I will introduce a small example about the automatic temperature monitoring, and which is like just plugging sensors. This is a simple IoT solution into your cold storage, freezers, fridges, or even your trucks, to monitor real time through an application on your mobile or your application on your desk, to monitor all your assets real time and take actions in time. So I'll show you a small video about the benefits of installing a temperature monitoring system first. Okay, so after this video, let's talk about the future and how we can see it. Like here now, what we have installed in Dubai, especially, we already introduced this IoT system, and most of the companies, like from restaurants to supermarket chains to food suppliers, they have started using the IoT technology, which is the first step of the temperature monitoring. And then we will show you a case study how we worked with the Food Watch team in Dubai to integrate the temperature monitoring solution to the food watch, and then during the different location of the food while transferring it from farm to fork, like they say, how we monitor the food and check it all over the way real time. Let me show you another video about the food watch in Dubai and how the IoT played a big role in the food safety here. Okay, so as IoT Plus, we are a solution provider, platform development company, and a supplier for major smart monitoring solutions. We have interfered and integrated most of these solutions to the main platform in Dubai. And the smart monitoring platform, why we need it, like first as an enterprise or as a government or as small entity, is like to monitor everything, like they say, from farm to fork, and guarantee that everything is appropriate, from the temperature to the source of food. and then get all the proof like on the software during the transportation. So then near zero paperwork and end-to-end traceability, we can for a smart monitoring platform, we can guarantee that everything will be traced all over the way, and then have the benefits that is needed. We have another video, I can show it to you, regarding the food safety and how we use the Internet of Things. I don't want to talk more about the Internet of Things, just to show it is better than talking about it. And then I will show the contact details of IoT Plus. Sorry, I guess the audio is not, you cannot listen the audio of the video. Okay, just I'll keep on showing the video, okay, as it is translated. Okay. So just there was a technical error. I couldn't, you can't hear the voice or the audio. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for today's presentation. Yes, back to you, Abdul Rashid.
Thank you so much, Rida, for the presentation and allowing us to share the information that you have on use of internet technology to advance food safety. It's very interesting. And
thank you.
Your efforts in terms of working along with the Dubai municipality and other regulatory authorities in the long term to ensure that you have a good approach. Thank you so much for that. The next presenter is Dr. Rafiq, Dr. Rafiq Al-Khatib. Dr. Rafiq is a young Dr. Rafiq on the screen. He's the founder and managing director of RMK, the Experts. And just to give you an idea, his experience in the industries as a food safety professional is 50 years plus. That's probably more experience than some of the people that we have on the screen who's presenting, Dr. Rafiq. And he has a long history of working with the food industry across all levels of professional, regulatory authorities, individual companies, etc. And from his experience, he has a variety of different practical auditing qualifications in FSS, CCS, HACCP, ISO 20000. I think it's probably easier to ask you, Dr. Rafiq, is there anything that you don't have? Then we can understand what is missing from there. So Dr. Rafiq also has focused now on social media. He's presenting social media channels on YouTube to interact with the industry and professionals. And his approach now is to share his expertise with a much larger audience on social media. So that's what we are looking at and learning from his knowledge and experience. He's going to present a topic which is very important on food inspection and public health inspection in the wake of COVID-19. Dr. Rafiq, thank you so much for being with us, and you can have the screen and start presentation.
Thank you, Abdul Rashid. Thank you very much for introducing me. Good afternoon. Assalamu alaikum. I am honored today to be speaking in front of all our colleagues. And I hope that my paper will add little thing to the food safety. The subject I'm going to speak about is the food inspection. And as you are aware, food inspection has been practiced for quite a very long time. And food inspectors are operating in all municipalities all over the world. And they have their own checklists, they have their own guidelines, and they are doing the inspection all the time. And actually, they are safeguarding our well-being. And as a result of their hard work in food inspection, we all enjoy having a safe food, safe meals, and enjoying the time we spend in any food facility, either restaurant or coffee shop or cafeteria or a hotel or similar places. Now, what happened with the non-welcome pandemic of COVID-19, that you all know that what happened, and we couldn't go to the restaurants to take our meals because of this pandemic, and everybody was worried. And for me, a personal experience rang a bell in my mind, that when I suggested to my wife that why don't we go to a restaurant X in Dubai, and let us go and have a lunch there. And she asked me, are you serious? You want us to go to the restaurant to take lunch? Do you think we are going to be safe? No risk of contracting the infection with COVID-19? Oh my goodness. She did not ask me about the food safety, the safety or the quality of the food in that restaurant. Her concern was that, are we going to be safe or not? And unfortunately, this is a new fact in our life, that instead of looking for a safe food only to consume, which is of course very necessary, but in the same time, we need to be careful about the places, the facilities where this food was prepared. And we have to be also aware about the people, the team, the personnel who are handling the preparation of our meals in the restaurants or in similar places. So this is actually the subject of my paper for today. So I can say that now we expect a new approach to the food inspection for the food facilities should be on the way, if it is already there, if it is not already there. And what is the difference between the food inspection, which was done over the years, over decades or a long time, and the inspection which I am expecting to take place nowadays or in the very near future? We have been advised all the time from the authorities to take care when we go to the food service places, food preparation spaces and places, that we have to take care, we have to keep the mask, and in these places, they have to take our temperature to allow us in, and the tables should be repositioned, and there must be social distancing and all these things. Okay, fine. That is a change. That's a real change. So the inspection is, instead of going only to inspect the food and the food handling and the food temperature and the cooking temperature and chillers and freezers and waiting time and pest control, all these are important things, but now we need to have into our consideration as food inspectors that we are not only food inspectors, we are food facilities inspectors. And because of the merger, which I suggest between the checklist the health and safety inspectors used to as a tool in their inspections, and the food safety inspectors used in their inspection the tool of a checklist for the food safety or food safety checklist. Now, my expectation and suggestion that we make a merger, we mix them all together. And we can say that we can create a new hybrid of the checklist for inspection of the food facility. So again, that we are not going from now on just to inspect the food safety in the place. We will inspect the food safety and we will inspect for the health and safety in the place. And health and safety in the place, food safety, okay, I think maybe I am not going to talk about it that much because that have been practiced over the time. But what we mean by that, we make a merger between the two checklists for inspection, that there are certain requirements now have been created as a result of this pandemic, and we have to follow these instructions or guidelines all the time. I remind everybody that COVID-19 is there, and our expectation that it will continue for a long time. Only God knows how long it will take to be there also. So the risk is always there, the pandemic is always there, and we need to be careful because we need to go back to our normal life. And we need these food facilities to come back into the business again. And the time they suffered enough when the time was, there's a lockdown and people cannot go there or cannot go to the public places because everybody is aware about their personal safety. Now, in these food facilities where the food is being prepared or stored or served or delivered, we need to follow the new requirements for our own safety first. And like what? What I mean by that? Let us start with the staff, with the team who are preparing our food, preparing our meals, either in restaurants or in commercial kitchens or in a wedding parties place or in a cafeteria or in a coffee shop or in similar places. We need themselves first to be safe, not to be suffering from any signs or symptoms of the COVID-19. This number one. Like how we guarantee or we ask them to ensure that they are safe from this pandemic. Luckily now, there are means of immunity, means of prevention that we can take, and the vaccines are available. Then we say that one of the main things that inspectors should check is this team working in the food preparation, like the team we are seeing in the picture, are they vaccinated against the COVID-19 or not? They must be vaccinated. There is no excuse in our areas, at least in our region here, there is no excuse for anybody to say, I do not take the vaccine because the vaccine is not available or it's very expensive or such things, because actually, as a matter of fact, we are all lucky to be in this part of the world, in the Gulf, in the United Emirates, in Qatar, in Kuwait, in Bahrain, Saudi, in all the region, in Jordan, that we have the vaccines available, and the authorities are calling us all the time, please come and take the vaccine. And we all have the chance to do that. And also now in the front line, we expect all the food handlers, all the chefs, all the commis, everybody working in a food facility should go and take the vaccine if they did not take it already. And okay, for myself, I can tell you that I had the vaccine for 4 times. I have the Chino Farm vaccine, the first dose and the second dose.
And also for the Pfizer, I have the first dose and I have the second dose, for example. And I'm sure many people here are doing the same thing. So this is the first requirement we want the food preparation staff to do. Second, we need to keep and maintain the other precautions in the place. When we come to the working place, we need to be sure that we change the home clothes or street clothes and put on the uniforms. And we need to be sure that the uniforms all the time should be laundered and should be ironed, and should be sure that if there was any chance for any contamination with the virus of COVID-19, this possibility is deleted, is not there anymore, okay? And of course, we need to put all the uniform, and I don't want to ask you now to put the face mask forcibly. We are all here in this part of the world, again, we are used now to use these face masks, and we are using it everywhere, either in our offices or in the malls or on the streets, or when we are driving, we are traveling, and so on. And it's good, it's recommended if we can work while this is still on our face, and it is a very effective preventive tool, very simple tool, but very effective. More importantly also, if anybody of the food team is suffering from or showing any signs of sickness like flu symptoms or sore throat or sneezing or coughing or this type of thing, his temperature should be taken, and if the temperature shows that it is above 38, he should be calling the authorities or the right place to take advice from a medical service place or center or hospital or clinic to be sure that he is not catching the COVID-19, and if he is positive, he should stay at home in a quarantine, okay, and follow the the protocols and the instructions in this concern. So I'm still speaking about the staff preparing our food, and of course we need somebody to be taking care of this thing, either the restaurant manager or a special nurse being recruited there, and he is or she is there working full-time, or a hygiene manager or hygiene officer. A thermometer should be always available in the place, and we need to be sure that temperature is checked every morning, or with every new shift the staff getting in, before they are allowed to get in, their temperature should be checked. Maybe some people will tell me, "Khalas, that's over, that story is over, and no checking in the malls." Still, in the food facilities, I suggest that it should continue as long as the pandemic is there. As long as we hear now and there are a number of cases in this country or that country or that country, and the globe is now a small city or a small town, and people are traveling, going, coming, and then we have to be careful. We have to be careful for ourselves. We have to be careful to the clients, to the food consumers who are expected to come to our place to dine, to enjoy, or to take their meal or their lunch or dinner or breakfast. Okay, so this is the stuff. Now, we will speak about the place itself, the facility itself. The facilities, you know that these facilities are built from before, according to guidelines and certain requirements from the municipal or authorities who are in charge of this food industry. But we need to add few things there in these facilities. What we need to add? Now, this place is open, and open from the back door, the staff will get in, and from the front door, guests are getting in. And now, even if we stop taking the temperature of the customers, and customers coming from everywhere, from anywhere, then we are not sure that they are free from the pandemic, from the COVID-19. even if they don't show any symptoms, the possibility of somebody contracting the disease is there. So to be careful on that, we need to fix in the food service hall and on the entrance this light of ultraviolet. Ultraviolet light is very effective against the COVID-19 virus, the coronavirus, very effective against also the bacteria. So if we fix the light there in the place, that the light will be almost covering the whole surfaces and walls and tables and counters in our working place, inside the kitchen, inside the restaurant, inside the bathrooms, in the washrooms, in the corridors, in the warehouses, in the dry food store, then even in the cold store. This definitely will be very much effective element to eliminate the presence of the coronavirus or COVID-19 pandemic. Now, an electrician can fix these ultraviolet lights. Ultraviolet lights are not strange for the food business. We have them in the knives books in the butcher's shop. They are there. We have them on the fly killers, you know, because it's all ultraviolet, but we need to go for ultraviolet C. Ultraviolet C is a safe light, and we don't put the light on while we have the customers in the place or we have the staff in the place. No, we don't do that to avoid any possibility of any harm or any side effect to the human beings. We put it on when we close and we go home. When we close the kitchen, the restaurant, the food place, and before we go home, we put the ultraviolet light on. I repeat, it's ultraviolet C. There is A, B, and C. C is the safest one, and we need to fix this in the place. It will distract and eliminate all the viruses of the COVID-19, and even it will distract the bacteria if there's any bacteria on the surfaces or on the equipment in the kitchen, okay, or in the toilets, or in the washroom, or on the tables, or on the chairs. Wherever this light is touching the or reaching, then the virus and the bacteria will be distracted. This is about the place. There are other, of course, other techniques of eliminating the virus, but these techniques might need a central ventilation, central air conditioning, and these techniques are like the air ionization. Air ionization, again, is very effective method of distracting the viruses and the bacteria and the molds in the working place through the ventilation system. It's very simple. There is a small kit which is with cathodes. It's cathodes, and it will be connected to the electricity. And then when we put it on, then it will discharge ions, positive and negative ions, and these ions will be injected with the air coming inside the building or inside the kitchen or inside the restaurant or the mall, wherever, and then these ions will be able to distract the viruses if there is any virus or any bacteria or any mold in the space where the air is being circulated. Okay, so this is for the place. Back again to the kitchen. Now we need also to take care of the, toilets and the cleaning process. What I mean by that? I mean, in such cases now, we need to have the cleaner who is taking care of the washrooms. He should be assigned to do this job, and we shouldn't allow him to go and do this job in other parts of the restaurant or the hotel, because they are working in a critical space, and this critical space should be always under their notice, under their supervision, and then they should clean continuously, and they should use the certified disinfectants in the place, especially the washrooms, the toilets, the hand wash basins, and this type of thing, the door handles, this type of thing. But the person or persons who are in charge of the toilet shouldn't be allowed to go to clean the tables or to clean inside the working in the kitchen, in the working stations where the chefs are and the commis and the cooks are preparing the meals. They shouldn't be allowed to come to that place. Other cleaners will do the job, but not the cleaners who are working in the washroom. And I suggest that a different uniform color should be provided to these cleaners in the place.
Doctor, if we just interrupt you there, you have about 2 minutes for the presentation. Otherwise, we're running late for the panel discussion.
Thank you, Abdul Rashid. Okay, the last point which I just mentioned rapidly is because a good percentage of the meals prepared in a kitchen now are delivered, outside, to be served outside the kitchen, outside the restaurant, or in the consumer's place. And this is very important to take care of the people who are working in the delivery, their hygiene. They should be healthy. They should be free from the pandemic. And of course, this is a long story. And I think they need a special attention from the municipality, from the inspectors, from the authorities, because most of the food now is being delivered through these people. Also, the vehicles they are using to transfer the food and the boxes where they keep our meals, it should be also taken care of, and licensed or approved disinfectants should be used all the time to ensure that it's free from any possibility of contamination on the way from the preparation work to the eating place. Thank you very much for listening to me, and I hope that it will be useful information, and most of you, I'm sure that you know about these things, but it's good to make everybody aware. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Rafiq, for the presentation. Very interesting topic that you covered in terms of approach of doing inspections in food businesses and combining the different risks from COVID as well as food safety. We're going on to the panel discussion now. Dr. Rafiq will be there on the panel, of course. Also, we'll invite back the participants, Mr. Rida from IoT and Sandeep, and of course myself will also be here as part of the panel. We have a couple of questions from participants. First of all, Mr. Rida, the question
Yes.
is, what are the major benefits for any food and beverage business when using the IoT smart solution?
Yeah, thank you for your question. So the major benefits is first is to protect the reputation of a company. So by keeping all the food fresh and well monitored, real-time monitored, he will know that his reputation will be very good and he's serving very good food. Then he can monitor from anywhere his assets, his food, like from his mobile application, he can monitor his the data real time and act directly if anything happened with his storage. Then he can save time and resources while using the IoT solutions. So he will save on the time of the team which are going to the site and the resources that is used. One more thing is like the predictive maintenance. So he can predict anything before it happens. So he will make sure like all his assets, all his cold rooms, all his vehicles are working before any harm is done, and he will lose the food. Reduce spoilage and waste, and then the most important thing, like here, like let's say in Dubai, is conform with the regulatory compliance. So it is mandatory for major like big companies to have a system in place, an IoT system in place to be like to go with the policies in the country. So this is mainly are the points that I want to talk about. Like,
right. Okay. And a follow-up question to this one as well. If a food business wants to start using IoT smart solutions, how easy is it? How easy is it? Is it time-consuming or something which is user-friendly? Because a lot of people sometimes are not encouraging technology because they feel it's not user-friendly, it's complicated, it takes too much time. So what's your answer to that sort of approach or mindset?
Yeah, exactly. So during the last like 5 to 7 years, while dealing with the clients and introducing this IoT solutions and smart solutions to them, the most important thing that for the employees in any company in the food safety business, like they want a nice user interface, friendly, easy to use, because if it is not having a good UI, then they will not use it. Oh no, it's making for me a problem. A reliable system where the alerts comes like in a good way and through emails, SMSs, even phone calls from the cloud-based system. Like the setup, it should be a simple setup with for the users and all the system for the company, for the owners of the company. What else? Like easy to scale. Like if they can start like some companies here in UAE and Oman, they want to start like small. Like they want to embed, let's say, 3-4 sensors, and then they will try it and check the benefits, and then they want to scale later. So the good system, like you can start small and go bigger with it, and then. The most important thing, the system should not make a headache for the client. So a reliable system, let's say you put a sensor, you don't want to every year to change the batteries, let's say. Okay, so what we say about our sensors, like plug and forget. 7 to 10 years battery life. You put a sensor and forget about it, you get the alerts out of it only. Affordable cost, this is the most important thing, and nowadays I guess like the market is very well saturated. There's many suppliers, we are one of them, and there's like affordable costs, affordable prices to embed a system, a technology system into the daily operation. So this is the point.
Okay, that's great, that's good. Thank you for that response.
Thank you.
Sandeep, in terms of the blockchain, we heard Dr. Rafiq talking about the COVID-19 approach and creating a hybrid inspection, an approach where you combine food safety and also COVID. In terms of blockchain, how is blockchain being seen as a user advantage that you may have using blockchain technology with COVID? Not just food safety.
Well, as I said, the blockchain was invented long back in 1990s, and then it was used for Bitcoin. So, and then since 2019, it has been used in various other sectors. It has also been used in health sectors, healthcare sectors. So I don't have much data, but definitely it can be used in terms of COVID tracking. If we can track the items from farm to fork, of course, we can also incorporate data in terms of healthcare and COVID into it, and we can do it. But I have not heard anything about that, but maybe very soon people will work on it and we would have some inputs on that.
Okay, that's good, that's good. Dr. Rafiq, in terms of the approach that you talked about, is this something that regulatory authorities you feel are actually taking this on board, or still there is a clear demarcation between food safety and COVID in terms of regulatory inspections that are happening in Dubai specifically?
Yeah, I believe that, it's because things are changing now. And, our understanding for the food safety is becoming now wider, much wider. And I've even suggested that we need to change the terminology of food safety. We should go for total food safety. It's not only food safety, it is total for everything, as you are aware. And when we have been talking about the food chain from the beginning, from farm to fork, it was just a slogan and very little opportunities to put it into practice, because inspection is going always to the terminals. Inspection is taking place mostly in the place where it's in direct contact with the end user. It's not going back, towards the production place or processing or storage or transportation. So I believe that municipalities or departments who are in charge of this thing, they should look into this matter, and they should modify also the checklists they have. And I will suggest also to make this practical, also like we do internal audit when we having quality management systems in place. We need to encourage internal auditors in any food facility to be done once every week or once every 2 weeks. And for example, if it is in Dubai, to be uploaded on the Food Watch, then by this we are sure that hygiene measures are being followed all the time. That's in my opinion. There are many things we can talk about. Maybe we need to, as I was thinking that we need to make a big change in the cold chain, in the chillers, in the freezers. I'm happy that our fellows mentioned this one, and I believe that it should be improved. Transportation vehicles for the food should be improved. The structure of the place, the ventilation, the cooling, the back door, I don't know what they put these stripes. It should be changed into air blowers there, or, like the one which we prevent flies entry into the food facilities. So, yeah, in my opinion, that we need a new generation of inspectors to who take the thorough look on the thing, and then they go and dig deep a little in the things which we believe that it will enhance or also help in maintaining the food safety of the consumers.
Thank you, Dr. I had a few questions come in for related to my presentation. So if you don't mind, I'll just address those. The first question that I had was, how do we get access to the food safety game? As I said, we have developed this ourselves. Our company based in Finland, Berry Media, has developed this program of gamification. If you send an email to info@berry-media.com, you'll be able to get information on access to the gamification programs that we have developed and are continuously developing and improving. So it's info @berry-media.com for access. The other question I had come through was, are the games customizable for the user requirement? Absolutely. What we try to achieve in terms of gamification or any type of IVA development, we want to make sure that the companies that are using these are able to use it with their own branding, logo, and their own environment, the kitchen operation. We'll take photographs, we'll take videos to make sure that the whole process of gamification or IVA is customized to meet the client requirements. So yes, is it customizable? Absolutely 100%. We can customize that. And that's something, again, we have an internal team that do that work and customize the gamings and IVA. In terms of the next question I had was that approach of gamification and IVA, is it something that's going towards the millennials mindset? And also, if we have used this type of IVA process and gamification with clients that we have used this and it's been successful? The answer is yes. The millennials mindset is, as Rida was mentioning before, Internet of Things has changed the approach to use of technology, and we want to make technology very simple and easy to use, make it user-friendly. And based on this, we have developed this as a tool that people can use very easily. It's very user-friendly, and we have used this in this type of approach with major clients based in not only in the Middle East but also in globally. I will not mention the brand names, but we have many clients who have used the IVA and gamification approach to improve learning and understanding of food safety principles. And the IVA assessment is something that has been used now across within UAE and particularly in Dubai. We have a program which has been in terms of the IVA assessments. We have a question bank of questions for level 2 food safety, level 2 HACCP, level 3 HACCP, level 4 food safety, also hazard awareness and health and safety questions as well. So we have a bank of questions which people can access through the online assessment that is used as part of the IVA training is completed. Then we have the assessment online. So we have an A to Z complete streamlined solution where we can have delivery of the training online, we have assessment online, and certificates are issued online. This is also partly supporting the policy of regulatory authorities now going towards minimizing paper and ensuring environmentally friendly approaches are in place with major businesses to ensure that we have minimal impact on climate change and waste disposal and all these aspects where people in the past have used different approaches of paper exercises, paper examination. So all that is now very historical and traditional. We've moved away from that. And the whole concept of using technology like IVA and gamification is to highlight the mindset of the user. They use social media, they use technology, and they are very able to adapt to these new ideas that we put forward. So those are my questions that people had asked me from participants. Thank you all for being on the panel, Dr. Rafiq, Sandeep, and Rida. It's been a pleasure having you on. I know you're all very busy, and it's very much appreciated that you've spent time out of your busy schedules to be on the panel and also do the presentation. We'll be having a lunch break now for an hour from the actual conference, and we'll be back online in an hour's time, which is going to be a break that you can look through the exhibitors that you have on the platform. You can ask questions of the exhibitors and what their services they're offering. So it's a time to interact and liaise with exhibitors. And again, thank you very much. We're back online in about an hour's time. Hope you see you then.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you very much.